Political topics. It should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, a whopper of a Wednesday edition. At least I'm hoping so. Fancy Brian, how you doing, man?
I'm all right. I'm I'm slowly closing my right eye due to some sort of tear duct blockage.
Some allergen.
I thought it was an allergen. I took a bunch of Benadryl yesterday. I was clairvoyant for a little bit because that's a side effect of Benadryl for me. Saw the future. It was very mundane. And I came back and now I still have this thing and it's kind of closing my eye. It worked with a little ice pack. It went down a little bit this morning and now it's back.
You got a big honking eye thing going on. You look like, are you sure the missus didn't whop you in the eye?
No. Normally it would be the dog or the kid accidentally, but no, Amy isn't gonna punch me right in the eye. She'll throw something at me or hit
kick
me
you
with
in the
something
nards,
else, but
not below the belt action.
Either that or I haven't tested the limits of that, and I don't plan to.
Fancy Brian, I feel like we got a big show. In deference to your
bigger than my eye. That's
bigger than your eye, even perhaps. First and foremost, we got a fine guest joining us at the bottom of this hour. That means about 2:30 Central Time. John Nichols from The Nation, gonna co-pilot here for a while today. But I got to tell you, Fancy Brian, I've been looking forward to this day in history for a long time. The day when employers start firing the unvaccinated. It's time. Today's the day. Let's do it. If you aren't vaccinated, you should be fired. At least that's what I think.
I think you've gotten enough lead time to now either choose to get vaccinated or possibly take a test all the time. Right now, because of not just getting COVID positives, but also because their husbands or wives are getting COVID positives, my Amy's entire office is completely decimated right now. The whole, like, every office has maybe 2 people in any given position. They need like 5 because they're hiring people. They got a really good wage. They get a really good healthcare and stuff like that. I'm on it. But they can't keep people because they keep getting COVID or being next to people that are COVID positive. And most of them are, a lot of them are vaccinated. But if they're some of them that aren't, they're screwing the entire office because of it.
Would the workplace she's at, would it be perceived to be a large employer, over 100 by the Biden administration vaccination mandate?
And it's a dermatologist's office, so it is medical, but it's not necessary medical. And they kept themselves open during COVID because they didn't want people their patients going to the hospitals for care.
Well, let me read you a little something. An HR source. I'm going to a trade journal from the human resources field. Here is the title of this piece. And I actually take encouragement by this. Firing unvaccinated workers becomes more common. It's happening more and more. More employers nationwide are firing workers, particularly healthcare employees who defy mandates to get vaccinated against COVID-19. Crudy says, about time. Overall, the numbers of dismissed employees are low. We've gathered articles on the news at SHRM online and other outlets, HR in the middle, human resources. Terminations in multiple states. The CEO of Christina Care in Delaware said the hospital has terminated approximately 150 employees who did not adhere to its vaccination policy. Now, that place employs like 12,000 people. And Norwell, New York's largest healthcare provider, recently dismissed about 24 unvaccinated employees. Northwell employs 76,000. That's a big number. Novant Health, a hospital based in North Carolina, has fired more than 175 unvaccinated employees, and more than 99% of its 35,000 employees have complied with the company's vaccine mandate. Now, first and foremost, those were sourced according to this source, the HR magazine from Forbes and Axios is reporting. But you should be. If you're not getting a vaccine in the healthcare field, you should be fired. If you don't believe in the science of what it is that you do for a living, maybe it's time to find a new job. Also, the airlines, the travel industry, United Airlines will begin terminations. Again, this according to this HR source. United Airlines announced on September 28th, it will begin discharging 593 unvaccinated employees over the next few days. Other companies are offering alternatives, including weekly testing or working remotely or away from other staff. Hard to do that on an airplane. United says its mandate has worked. About 96% of its workers have been vaccinated. Another 3% are seeking an exception, which could result in unpaid leave. Less than 1% of its 67,000 U.S. employees will be fired, which won't affect airline operations. You're fired.
It's going to come down to liability. It's going to come down to, whether you believe in vaccination or not. If someone goes to a healthcare facility and gets COVID from somebody who isn't vaccinated, or there's some sort of complication there, that is an automatic trigger suit right there.
Well,
that's it.
Here's the flip side of that equation, Fancy Brian. If you are an employer mandating vaccines, of course, you're subject to lawsuit because there's always someone willing to file a lawsuit. Lawsuits against United Airlines. It's been sued by employees in 2 lawsuits. In one, a worker alleged that religious exemption wasn't accommodated. In a second lawsuit, 6 employees seeking religious and medical exemptions sued and will remain employed until October 8th, when the court scheduled a hearing for the lawsuit. These plaintiffs asserted that being placed on an indefinite leave of absence meant their employment would be effectively terminated. Yes. Bye-bye.
Here's an anecdotal little bit here. I talked to one of the nurses that took care of me when I was in the hospital last year, and she was talking about her unvaccinated co-employees at the time, and they said 2 of them had applied for exemption, right? They had filled out this form exactly because they copied off of each other. One of them got accepted, one of them got denied. And she's like, well, okay, you apply for exemption, but the problem is that the implementation of it isn't necessarily fair across the board.
Oh, a little arbitrary if they copied each other's papers, turned in the same papers and got different grades.
Yes, exactly. That's kind of weird like that. And you got to go and define how this is going to be laid out. But again, you've given people months to get this taken care of, months to figure out whether you can or not, and plenty of time to go and start your own clinic if you wanted to.
Here's my question about the arbitrary randomness example you threw out. Did the person that originally wrote the answer or the person that copied the answer, which was granted the exemption?
I didn't get that far into it was a grocery store conversation, but it was.
Oh, so you heard something from Nicki Minaj's friend?
No. There was not about swollen balls this time. This time it was about Michael Jackson coming to their house to use the bathroom. No, seriously, this is the person that was taking care of me. We stopped and we talked for a little bit about the situation. And I was like, okay, I'm shopping. I don't want to get into a vaccination conversation, but this is interesting at the same time. Great.
Let me read a little more from this HR piece. Vaccine mandates are on the rise. In a survey of 272 legal compliance and HR executives, 46% of organizations plan to institute a vaccine mandate, while approximately 17% said they will not, and 36% are unsure. So 46% of these, HR executives claim they're going to institute a vaccine mandate. 46% of private employers, while 17% said they will not. And 15% of executives said their companies will terminate non-compliant employees. I'm okay with that. You know what did they always tell us? I've been getting calls from conservatives for so long. If you don't like your job, why don't you quit and get a new job? I mean, you pointed out, Fancy Brian, it's very good employment. I guess that would be to the employee's advantage. It's a worker's environment out there in the world.
Absolutely.
But of course, the next place you go to could have their own vaccine mandate, and the place after that, and the place after that. And that's what I would like to see. I'd like to see some uniformity, not just big businesses, most or all businesses. if we start, and I'm speaking as the owner of a company, Fancy Brian, you're a smart guy. I didn't have to mandate a vaccine for you. But, if we had a bunch of non-compliant employees saying, hell no, well, at some point they're exposing the rest of us. And I'm here in the workplace. You're here in the workplace. We cannot not interact in the workplace. And at least as long as we're broadcasting, man, I can't wear a mask all day, and speak clearly on the microphone. Hell, I struggle enough without a mask on, right? So at some point, we're going to be exposed to each other. And the fact that you and I have been working very closely together in the same room effectively for almost the entirety of this pandemic, and neither one of us has infected the other one of us, as far as I can tell. I mean, I think that speaks to, our super coolness.
Either that or we don't talk to anybody else besides each other for the entirety of most days.
I don't know if that's sadder for you or for me. I got to think for you.
I don't know. I'm enjoying my isolationist policies.
Anyways, we have reached a point in history where I'm beyond just sort of civil discourse, live and let die. I'm pretty much just do it. Just freaking do it. And I hope your employer fires your ass. If you won't do it, I hope you do get fired. And if you got a cousin's uncle's friend down in the Virgin Islands or wherever Nicki Minaj is originally from, whose nard swole up after the vaccine, so what? So what? Put some ice on it. Brian's got a big fat swollen eye. Just put some ice on it. You'll live. That's the whole point. Take the vaccine. You'll live. Other people will live. You won't give it to other people whose kids perhaps can't get the vaccine yet, because let's not forget, people under 12, not yet eligible for the vaccine. Hopefully that's coming soon. But in the meantime, if you are so freaking discourteous, you know what? You're fired. You're fired. I'm just fine with that. And I like workers. I don't want to see unemployed people out there, but tough. 844-967-2789. If you think I'm wrong, call me. But I'm going to run you down. You get a vaccine. I'm talking especially to you, Steve. You better have your vaccine by now. Come back. More Devil's Advocates. I mandate a vaccinated audience.
Freedom! Not going to work here anymore anyway.
Bye, Felicia.
Hey, son. How are you feeling?
I'm fine, Pops.
What's on your mind?
I can't explain it.
When your kid can't find the language, find the lyrics. Start a conversation at sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by Ad Council and Pivotal Ventures.
600,000 Wisconsin families are receiving checks to help take care of their kids thanks to the expanded child tax credit passed by Joe Biden and congressional Democrats. Ron Johnson voted against these checks for Wisconsin families, despite voting for a 2017 tax break that put more money into the pockets of millionaires like himself. It's time to vote Ron Johnson out of office. MoveOn.org political action, paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
Plenty of people start something great in their 40s and 50s. Getting your retirement savings on track is no different. Go to aceyourretirement.org, and in 3 minutes, you'll get personalized tips to help boost your retirement savings. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
The former president, the fact that he needed to drop a press release to call the horse a junkie.
The horse came from a broken home. I heard he was sold for like $1,000. Was born on a dirt patch. Then the pressure, the constant, the training over and over. I mean, really not getting to have a normal childhood and grow up and hang out with their other little horsey friends. Then one of those days, walked down the wrong alley and first one's free. And after that, it was all downhill from there.
Dom, that's why they call it horse.
Listen to Devil's Advocates weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m.
Break. Kicking ass and taking names since the Wisconsin uprising. Dom and Cruz are the Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Going to mess around and get a triple-double round here. Fancy Brian, vaccine mandates. I've been ready for this, and I'm ready for employers to start firing their employees. I'm down with that. There's got to be a consequence to being a jackass. And the NBA has now announced their own consequence, the National Basketball Association. Now, they're in the sports entertainment industry. And here's something I find very interesting. Do you know what the vaccination rate is in the WNBA, the Women's Professional Basketball League?
I'd say it's damn near high. I'd say it's super high.
99% of all WNBA players have been vaccinated. But on the NBA
a lot of them
side,
can't afford insurance, so all right.
There is a disparity of play amongst WNBA players.
Yeah, the disparity of pay. Yeah.
I would hope that the WNBA does provide health insurance.
I would hope. I'm just I'm making a little joke there.
So that's the joke. Sorry if I had to, rock it for those less informed about the pay standards of the WNBA. But here's the important part, at least, in terms of what's going to capture the headlines. The NBA announces it will withhold pay of unvaccinated players. Oh, that's a shame. The NBA announced on Wednesday it will withhold pay of unvaccinated players who miss games this season. Any player who elects not to comply with local vaccination mandates will not be paid for the games that he misses. NBA spokesman Mike Bass said in a statement, the withholding of pay was one of a number of COVID-19 safety protocols the league unveiled Thursday morning ahead of its season, which is set to tip off October 19th. While the protocols did not include a vaccine mandate, players who have not yet received the vaccine will not be permitted to eat amongst their inoculated teammates, and their lockers will be located far away from others, according to the Associated Press. So you can't eat with your friends. You're going to have a locker off in the corner by yourself.
But if they're playing, they're still next to each other.
Unvaccinated players will also be required to wear a mask and abide by social distancing guidelines during team meetings. The memo also includes guidelines for lodging during games when in their home city. Unvaccinated players will be required to remain in their homes, and on the road, they must stay in their hotel rooms away from businesses or large indoor gatherings. Unvaccinated players will also be tested frequently during practices or various team events. Vaccinated players will also still be required to submit weekly COVID-19 tests. So we got a little problem brewing, or at least there are some players. I don't normally go to the Yahoo Sports for my sourcing here, but I want to read a little bit from Vincent Goodwill. Here's what he writes. Here's the lead of his article. Loud, proud, and wrong took center stage on podiums across the NBA, with star players gladly spouting off misinformation and nonsense reminiscent of the presidential campaigns of recent vintage. It's pretty bad when the sports news has to point at the political news and say, we're getting as bad as those guys.
Yeah, don't forget the symbolic moment that started the official "this is a pandemic and we're all starting to go into lockdown" was Rudy Gobert coming out, pretending, ha ha ha, I'm touching all the microphones and I'm touching all the stuff here, and then he tested positive for COVID, and then pretty much shut down the NBA for the season, which started a chain of events that stopped every single sport. And that's the thing.
And cost the UW Wisconsin Badgers an NCAA championship.
Allegedly.
Probably.
Possibly. But the greater point being that the NBA is ground zero for the moment that started the pandemic. On top of that, the NFL is cracking down on this pretty darn hard as well. And there's no way the NBA is going to come in on the lighter side of this than the NFL is.
Well, there's a couple of specific players referenced here in the Yahoo Sports opinion piece. Kyrie Irving, Bradley Beal, and Andrew Wiggins. Now, I see the Kyrie, and I mean, a couple of these players can't play in their own home arenas. Let me read a little bit more from the Yahoo Sports. Irving and Wiggins, due to New York City and San Francisco mandates, will not be able to play home games. How can you be part of a team if you can't play games at the home arena? I mean, you got 82 games, 41 of them are going to be at home, plus the playoffs. So if you are in New York City or San Francisco, you can't play if you're not vaccinated. Beal contracted COVID-19 in the past few months and thankfully recovered, but the experience only strengthened his resolve to remain unvaccinated, as Washington, D.C. has no such mandate in place, and the volume was so loud you forget over 90% of contracted NBA players have received a COVID-19 vaccination. But as I mentioned, Fancy Brian, the women have a 99% vaccination rate. And this article goes on to say, let's stop covering these idiots. The idiots that don't have the good sense to go and get a vaccine during a pandemic. The idiots that are going to be ineligible to play in their own home arenas. You can't do your job. If you can't play, and I mean, clearly the NBA is trying to create a little, let's call it friction. They're treating these unvaccinated players. I mean, go sit by yourself. Can't enjoy meals with friends. Can't go out on the road. Hell, you can't leave your hotel room. And you can't even go out at home. Even when we're at the home arena, which you may or may not be eligible to play in, you got to stay home. You're grounded. I mean, that's almost a second-class citizenship being bestowed upon the unvaccinated. And I say, good.
Well,
it should be painful.
Kyrie also believes in the flat earth situation, so I don't know there's much help with that.
I thought he was reformed on his flat earthism. Said he went a little too far down the YouTube rabbit holes. And did you see today YouTube has banned COVID misinformation? I mean, we've only been in pandemic for a year and a half. Welcome to the party, pal. Way to be the forerunners on this issue. We got a fine guest coming next. He is John Nichols from The Nation. Stick around. More Devil's Advocates with my pal, John Nichols.
Hey, wait a minute, Pooh. Stop it. What the I'm thinking about?
I am not a role model. I've been hearing that crap ever since I was at UCLA. I'm out there busting my buns every night. Tell your old man to drag Walton and Lanier up and down the court for 48 minutes. I'm not paid to be a role model.
You know what? I'll tell you something. There's nothing better than a hot sausage, couple 2-3 cold beers, and Devil Radio on a box.
At Chad's Design Build, our tagline is building a better world, one remodeled home at a time. Simply stated, we want to be a part of the solution to leave the world better than we found it. That's why we've invested in a 20 kilowatt solar array, which provides over 90% of our electrical demand at our shop, office, and design studio. And that's why we invest in local causes which provide opportunities and which confront structural inequality. At Chad's Design Build, we are proud to partner with you, building a better world, one remodeled home at a time.
Hi, this is Gordy from Kopke's Greenhouse. Many of you know us from the spring planting season. We are also open for your fall decorating needs. We have a nice selection of mums as well as an amazing selection of pumpkins and gourds. My favorites are the Warty Gordy pumpkins, each with interesting ripples and bumps that make them spooky without even having to carve them. We're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, weekends 9 to 5. So come on out to our farm, 2 miles northeast of Oregon on Sand Hill Road.
I'm Ed Donahue with an AP News Minute. Another hearing today, this one in the House, on the end of the U.S. mission in Afghanistan. Some officials say the collapse in Afghanistan could be traced to a Trump administration agreement with the Taliban last year. American troops died during the evacuation operation at the Kabul airport. South Carolina Republican Joe Wilson is on the House Armed Services Committee.
The buck stops with 13 murdered Marines. Mr. Biden is disregarding the military advice, and I believe the president should resign.
Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says the debate over how this ended should not cloud what happened in Afghanistan.
They prevented another 9/11. They showed extraordinary courage and compassion in the war's last days. They made lasting progress in Afghanistan that the Taliban will find difficult to reverse and that the international community should work hard to preserve.
Joint Chiefs of Staff Chair General Mark Milley again said the war in Afghanistan was a strategic failure. I'm Ed Donahue.
If you owe the IRS back taxes, then get ready to pay up. The IRS has giant private collection agencies actively tracking down folks who owe the IRS. So if you think dodging them was stressful in the past, it's going to get a whole lot tougher. Optima Tax Relief has this advice. Don't wait. Solve your tax problems now before it's too late. Optima Tax Relief works to stop the demand letters, stop the aggressive collection actions, and stop the IRS collectors from targeting you. Ask Optima about the Fresh Start Initiative, one of the biggest breaks the IRS has ever offered. If you qualify, you could save thousands, and nobody knows this program better than they do. Optima is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, and they get results, having resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. Get a fresh start. Call today for your free consultation.
Call 800-467-2766. 800-467-2766. 800-467-2766.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. On Tuesday, the state assembly passed a number of legislative proposals that affect K-12 education in Wisconsin, including limiting public schools from discussing or teaching topics that include systemic racism and implicit bias. Also yesterday, the state Senate passed a proposal already approved by the assembly that would mandate law enforcement agencies to keep personnel files on officers and share them with other departments when officers seek new jobs. The legislation is expected to be signed by Governor Tony Evers when it arrives at his desk. Bellin Health of Green Bay announced this week it is joining other healthcare providers around the state in mandating COVID-19 vaccinations for all employees by November 15th. Generac Power Systems plans to create 700 jobs and invest $53 million in its Wisconsin facilities, the company announced Tuesday from its Pewaukee headquarters. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, a whopper of a Wednesday edition, and it's only getting better with a fine guest joining me right now live via phone. He's John Nichols from The Nation magazine. John, welcome back to the big show.
Great to be with you, my friend.
John, I'm gonna throw this one up for you. I'm gonna fluff it up for you, sir. Right. Because I haven't been keeping score on all this brinksmanship going on in DC in regards to what the debt ceiling and also the infrastructure bills, the couple of infrastructure bills. So where do we stand, John? Because I didn't do the homework.
Well, here's where we stand. Pretty much exactly where we were the last time you looked.
Woo! It's been weeks, John. Nothing's changed.
Yeah, I know. It's a frustrating reality. Here's the situation, and it could break at any moment. But right now, what we've got is a standoff where a handful of so-called moderates, who are really corporate aligned folks, they're people who take a lot of money from big pharma and other bad players, are saying they've got to get a vote on the physical infrastructure bill without the social infrastructure bill, the bigger one. And they got to get their physical infrastructure bill first, the so-called bipartisan plan. And then the bigger one that's now at $3.5 trillion has to be hacked down to something dramatically less than what it is. Progressives who are many, many more of them, as well as just mainstream Democrats, people closely aligned with Biden, are saying that's ridiculous. There was a deal to pass the physical and the social infrastructure bills together, and we don't trust the moderates to stick with us on anything big, and so we're not gonna back that approach. So that puts Biden in a very difficult situation. He's got to negotiate everything right now. He can't leave things to the future. He's got to get all these deals in place in the moment. And they keep doing deadlines. It's going to be Monday or Tuesday or Thursday or next Monday or, 2027. But the bottom line that, they keep moving the deadline because what they're trying to sort out is really, really difficult. And that is to, frankly, bring down the social infrastructure bill significantly, like from 3.5 trillion to something much smaller. Joe Manchin is a real, kind of wrench in the machine here, had suggested as low as 1 trillion. That would cut out, more than 2/3 of what the proposal does, make it impossible, quite frankly, to do a lot of the big bold things like expanding Medicare, paid family medical leave, free community college, et cetera. At the same time, Kirsten Sinema and other people are pushing for getting rid of tax cuts or taxation of the very wealthy, or at least some of the more aggressive efforts to tax the very wealthy that are key to paying for the thing. And so, here's the deal. If Biden cuts the thing way down and then gets rid of most of the meaningful tax cuts on the very wealthy, you're going to end up with something far less consequential than what's needed. And then progressives will logically be opposed to that or be very, very critical of it. So you end up in a situation where Biden's pushing, pulling, trying to negotiate. Schumer's in the game. Sanders is in the game. Lots of other people. But as of now, we haven't seen the kind of movement on the part of the so-called moderates that would create a situation where it looks like they can definitely pass them.
John Nichols, you got any bright ideas how Joe could persuade Sinema and Manchin? I understand the Democratic Party of the state of Arizona passed a resolution basically telling Sinema, be a freaking Dem, vote with us, do what we want you to do. We helped you get elected. Do you think that's persuasive, embarrassing, or none of the above?
Look, it probably isn't all that persuasive in the immediate moment because Sinema is raising tons of money from the people who oppose the $3.5 trillion bill, like the rich people that don't want to pay taxes, the big pharma, other institutions that are opposed to it. So she's clearly cast her lot with the other side, and I think that has to be understood. With that said, the threat of a primary challenge, a genuine threat of a primary challenge, that's going to be felt by any politician. She'll be aware of it. She'll be conscious of it. But really, the way to move this thing, I do think it's sort of a combination of that grassroots pressure and pressure from Biden. And here's what Biden has to make clear, especially to Kirsten Sinema. If the Democrats fail to enact meaningful change on behalf of the great mass of working class and middle class Americans, really make people's lives better in a way that's notable and in a way that will cause people to A, be excited by what's happened, and B, be enthused to go vote to keep Democrats in power so more good things will happen. If they don't do that, they will lose control of the House and the Senate in 2022. And the remainder of Joe Biden's presidency will be a lame duck presidency. That will mean that Sinema and Manchin are disempowered. Now, they could maybe you'll theorize that they can play along with the Republicans. But the truth of the matter is that my view is that if the Democrats screw this thing up badly enough, the Republicans will win pretty substantial majorities. And if that's the case, Manchin and Sinema are going to be sidelined too. So the argument that I would make if I was Joe Biden is that this isn't about, doing the right thing, because obviously that doesn't influence Manchin and Sinema. This is about political survival and the prospect that you could really create a situation where the Democrats are very severely disempowered at a point where American democracy is threatened by the prospect of potentially even the return of Donald Trump. So, I'd work that territory. And then probably not that I would personally do this, but I might, reference the suggestion from Miami Steve Van Zandt of the E Street Band and also star of The Sopranos, who says that, Biden and Democrats might need to start, adopting a little bit more of a Sopranos approach to this. Perhaps a little bit more pressure on some of their wavering people as regards the future of their political careers.
You know, I must have missed a hell of an interview on Brian Williams last night.
It
Stevie
was
Van
good.
Sant. I saw you tweeting it out. I heard he must be trying to sell some books because I heard he announced he had a compulsion to menage a trois. And I'm thinking, that is a spoiled human being. But anyways,
But
my
that's
fine.
also something you're going to read. You got to get the book right away, though, right? You know, I mean, fine. Look at the index under menage a trois, right?
He said that
Whatever.
the 70s were a hell of a wild time. That's my fine guest, John Nichols. He is with the Nation. Right now, he's with the Devil's Advocates right here on the airwaves. John, so what do you think Cinema and Manchin's endgame is? Do you think they're trying to create compromise? Do you think if we turn to the end of this book, we're going to see they took the 1.2 trillion and maybe they added on 2.3 trillion, came to a total bill of 3.5 trillion and said everybody wins? Or do you think their true goal is to just keep cashing the donor checks, and if they have to kill the democracy, so be it?
Well, I hate to disappoint you, but I suspect that their goal is a little bit more toward the cash and the donor checks. But I think that this is the mistake that we make, and it's a big mistake when we're talking about politics, is to assume that everybody you disagree with is in the same camp. And I don't necessarily assume that. I think that Manchin and Sinema, for instance, are very, very different political figures. Sinema is in a rapidly growing state that is changing demographically, culturally, politically, in all sorts of ways. She's trying to surf on top of that, and she's a very, very self-absorbed person, very, very concerned about maintaining her own political position, her own political future. And it's pretty clear that she wants to be the next John McCain. She wants to be the maverick that, you know, is sort of beyond party, and that, you know, for her, not for, you know, her political alliances per se. And that's had some success in Arizona. McCain, you know, had a long career there. And it's pretty clear that that's her fantasy. Whether it comes to pass, we'll see. And so if I'm Biden, I'm trying to negotiate with her. That's what I'm going to play to. I'm going to try and look for ways that speak to her desire to be a quote unquote maverick, but still ultimately deliver something big for Arizona. I'd look for ways to do a lot more good stuff for Arizona, because she is very oriented toward that, you know, traditional constituent service stuff, puts out a lot of press releases and that. I'd give her a whole bunch of things to put good press releases out on. Now, Manchin's a different player altogether. Manchin is in a state that isn't growing rapidly, in a state that's actually been, you know, kind of hit by hard times for 30 years or longer. And his state actually needs just about everything that is in this bill. I mean, just about everything that's in it. And so with Manchin, I would use a different kind of pressure there. I would have my allies go up massively on TV in West Virginia on what's in this bill, what's needed, how it helps West Virginians. I would create a lot of space for Manchin to come to you and, you know, run up the popularity of the measure on the ground in his state. I think that's easier to do in West Virginia than it is in Arizona. So I think there you're looking at two different strategies. But here's the problem. Both of those strategies don't play out in the next 24 hours. You know what I mean? And that's the problem with these deadlines. They say, oh, we got to get this by this amount of time. I understand that just in the last like 48 hours, Sinema's been to the White House, you know, like 3, maybe 4 times. You know, they keep going in, they keep talking. One hopes that they're moving toward some point of agreement, but it is very, very hard to do that against a hard deadline when you've got to move not just one person, but 2 in the Senate, and then also where you've got to move probably 7, 8, 9, 10 in the House. Tiny minorities in the Democratic Party, but they got to be moved. And that is really hard work.
John Nichols from the Nation, our good friend. Thanks for joining us, John. And this is all happening with the backdrop of a debt ceiling and the Republican intransigence against the debt ceiling. And John, here's the other aspect I don't quite understand. I see Schumer says there's no way in hell we're passing a debt ceiling raise through reconciliation. We're not doing it with 50 Democratic votes. And I get it. They're trying to force, even though the Democrats played fair when Trump was the president, Republicans, they have no such preconceived notions. They don't play fair. So how did the Democrats raise the debt ceiling? Is it a continuing resolution? How do we clear this other hurdle at the very same time, John?
Well, I think this is the easy one. Here's where I think the fun comes in. Okay. I think that if I was Schumer, and I know that he's been resistant to this, I'd say, the economic health of the nation is at stake, potentially the global economy. This could create, in the midst of a lingering COVID crisis and all the other challenges facing the U.S. and the world, an economic disaster that could crash the stock market and ultimately give China, Germany, and other countries, a huge leg up on us as we build the future economy. It's such a serious moment. We just can't afford it. So we've got to get rid of the barrier to doing what needs to be done. And so we're going to eliminate the filibuster.
Well, that'd be great. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, but I'm not kidding about that. It's the way to sell the elimination of the filibuster, right? I mean, up to this point, you got all these people, I don't know. There's all this tradition. There's all this history, blah, blah, blah. No, I just say, look, I'm for tradition. I'm for history. Can't crash the global economy. Got to get rid of the filibuster. And the Republicans will scream, well, you don't have to do that. You could only do it for reconciliation. And you say, no, too complicated there. We're just getting rid of the filibuster, period. We're going to, we will raise the debt ceiling. And then tomorrow we're going to pass the PRO Act to protect labor unions. And the next day we're going to do, the George Floyd reform of policing stuff. And the day after that, we're going to do, and you just got to run down the list.
Well, John Nichols, from your lips to the Democrats' ears. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. John Nichols, our fine guest.
Got news for you, pal. They're going to nail us no matter what we do.
You wouldn't hit a guy with glasses on, would you?
Come on, show a little backbone, will ya?
Hey, Wisconsin, this is Kirk Bankstad, and I own the Minocqua Brewing Company. Usually, I promote my progressive beer on this station, but today I wanted to promote these guys at Devil Radio. Devil Radio is the only progressive talk station in the state, and there are no less than 81 conservative talk stations in Wisconsin that spew crazy Trump cult rhetoric. While the Republicans have big pockets to fund these stations and manipulate Wisconsinites to vote against their own interests, Democrats have to rely on grassroots donations to get their message out. So I'm asking you to donate some money to these guys and keep them on the air. And I'm asking you to do it in September because every dollar you donate this month will be matched by an anonymous donor that cares about making Wisconsin a democracy again and knows that this radio station helps with that mission. So please donate today at devilradio927.com at the Support Devil Radio tab. Again, send some big bucks to devilradio927.com at the Support Devil Radio tab.
600,000 Wisconsin families are receiving checks to help take care of their kids thanks to the expanded child tax credit passed by Joe Biden and congressional Democrats. Ron Johnson voted against these checks for Wisconsin families, despite voting for a 2017 tax break that put more money into the pockets of millionaires like himself. It's time to vote Ron Johnson out of office. MoveOn.org political action, paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
The Devil's Advocates. They refuse to do math on the radio.
Dr. Michael Hicks, professor of economics, director of the Center for Business and Economic Research at Ball State University. This is troubling math all the way around. According to your mathematics, Michael, when do you think the great state of Wisconsin will get paid back on its investment?
Right. I mean, the answer is probably, the answer is never.
The Devil's Advocates. Sausage making never looks so good.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Happy Wednesday to us all. We got the finest of guests. He is John Nichols from The Nation. John, thanks for sticking around, man.
Yeah, what would I do? Paint my room?
I'm not clear. I understand there are supply shortages, and one of the next issues is going to be paint. And that's not a big problem, John.
Really?
I don't like painting.
I better get to work. I'm going to have to leave now. I got to paint my living room.
Hey, let me ask you, John, if the Dems can't deliver, here's my greatest fear. The Dems don't deliver. the Dems get thrashed in the midterms, and then Donald Trump wins re-election, or whatever you would call it, in 2024. And, if we thought he was unfettered prior, Donald Trump back in the White House would be disastrous. I think it would be the ruination of this nation. John, can you see a god-awful scenario like that coming to pass, sir?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thanks for the encouraging words, John.
Yeah. I think you're kind of underplaying the horror of what is possible. Let me just give you a little history lesson here. We'll go quick. Franklin Roosevelt, 1944, proposes an economic bill of rights. Right, he's going to guarantee housing, health care, job, pay as a right. Huge thing. Gets reelected easily. Democrats increase their majorities in the House and Senate. Then Roosevelt dies. Presidency goes to Harry Truman. He cuts back on everything, gets rid of a lot of the New Dealers, loses control of the Congress in 1946. Congress passes the Taft-Hartley Act that undermines labor, starts deconstructing the New Deal. Okay, well, Democrats should learn their lessons, right? No. Again and again and again throughout history, Democrats come to power with substantial majorities, clearly able to do great, big, meaningful things, and then they cut it short. They do less. They undermine their own position, as Jimmy Carter did in his first 2 years, severely weakening his presidency, as Bill Clinton did when he did NAFTA and embraced all sorts of elements of the Republican agenda and, governed, is a ridiculously center-right so-called New Democrat who said the era of big government is over, lost, his ability to govern in the 1994 midterms and fell back further as time went on, as Barack Obama did when, under pressure from so-called moderate Democrats, he did an insufficient stimulus in 2009, 2010 loses control of Congress, unable to govern going forward. So that's the history of it, brother. Again and again and again, we see situations where Democrats are in a position where they could govern, they could do big things, they could make a meaningful change, and they could never do so. And if failing to do so, they end up screwed.
John, how screwed? Let me clarify. My understanding is Donald Trump is pointing towards October 9th and a rally in Des Moines, Iowa is perhaps his launch of the re-election campaign. And I think that Trump somehow believes that if he were a candidate and the probable frontrunner in the GOP's nomination field, well, Twitter might be forced to re-platform him. He might get his social media back, and he's certainly going to get a bigger platform. Now he's not some ranting former president. Now he's the front runner for the nomination in the Republican Party. John, for just purely stealing the attention of the American people, Donald Trump wants so desperately to garner our attention. And I hate to give it to him, John, but I think he's gonna take it.
Yeah, and I'm all for it, man. I'm ready to give it to him. I want Donald Trump to jump right back into the fray and become the total face of the Republican Party. I want Ron Johnson to have to run for re-election as the Donald Trump candidate. I want Rebecca Clayfish to run for governor of Wisconsin as the Donald Trump candidate. I want that, that full-on Trump imprint to be put on every Republican in the country who isn't anti-Trump. I mean, Liz Cheney gets off the hook, I guess. So why? Because let's look at the track record. Donald Trump didn't win the presidency in 2016. He lost the popular vote. He only prevailed because of a tremendous number of votes cast for third-party candidates. 2018, when Donald Trump is the main issue in the midterm elections, the Democrats win the House and the Senate. 2020, Donald Trump loses the presidency. Democrats pick up 2 more states. They swing 5 states, including 2 states that they hadn't won in a long time, Arizona and Georgia, along with Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, and get a record vote for the presidency, win the Electoral College easily, and hold the House and the Senate. So yeah, if Donald Trump wants to come back and put his imprint on the Republican Party, who am I to stop him?
So effectively, John, you think the saving grace could be Donald Trump on the ballot again in the midterms Can the Democrats hold it, John? I look at issues like the abortion law in Texas. I think if this doesn't engage voters, especially female voters, what will? But John, is Trump on the ballot effectively in 2022 the best damn thing that could possibly happen to the Democrats?
100% the best thing. Maybe they're saving grace. Look, if they cannot get their act together to pass both the physical infrastructure bill and the social infrastructure bill, to do both of these major initiatives and to do them well and wisely at the amount that is sufficient to really make a change in people's lives, then they're going to be in a very, very bad position politically. They're going to be very vulnerable, without a doubt. And the one thing that eases their vulnerability and frankly gives them at least a chance of winning or keeping control of the House and the Senate in 2022, winning governorships around the country, including in Wisconsin, is to have Donald Trump as the opponent.
John, what about Afghanistan as an engaging issue for conservative voters? I certainly think they've got this issue to beat Joe Biden with. Obviously, there was some contradiction in the testimony. The generals before Congress contradicted Biden. That continues to give these conservatives all the license to say, Biden lied and people died. How bad an issue do you think this could be theoretically? Will it be an engaging issue for conservatives against Biden and against the larger Democratic agenda?
Look, it is an issue. If the election was this week, next week, this fall, perhaps, it might actually have some resonance. But just as Benghazi ultimately did not prove to be a lingering issue in 2018, 2020, I think that Afghanistan, there's a lot of mess to it. I don't think you deny the elements of it that don't look good. But I find it very hard to believe that in a country that's so evenly divided on a host of issues, that if people are given a clear choice on domestic issues and frankly the future of the country, that folks are going to say, well, I voted for Biden. I want Democrats to be in charge. I'm really concerned about abortion rights. I'm really concerned about a lot of these other issues. But boy, that Afghanistan thing, I'm going to have to vote to put Mitch McConnell in charge of the Senate.
Well,
I don't see that happening.
John, that's the only reassuring thing you've told me so far. John Nichols from The Nation, thank you so much for joining us here on the Devil's Advocates today.
All right, I'm going to run out and get some paint before it sells out.
Yeah, selling out of paint. Buy yours today. John Nichols, thank you so much. Have a great day. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. We'll open up the phone lines for you. They're open. Just dial them up. 844-967-2789.
Good heavens. Are you still trying to win?
I love you. Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
Hey, Rocker here. I'm back on the patio at Salvatore's Tomato Pies on East Wash. I'm drinking a brand new Rocker vodka cocktail you just have to try. It's called Divide and Conquer. It features Rocker vodka mixed with Concord grape, thyme, St. Elizabeth's allspice dram, and a little lemon lime. Ask for it by name, Divide and Conquer, featuring Rocker vodka at Salvatore's Tomato Pies.
Hey, it's Pizza Box Mike. I've got a show outside the Pizza Box. Be sure to listen on Saturdays at noon on Devil Radio. There is a reason why they won't let me on Facebook anymore.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus and W224 EG 92.7 FM Madison. Always streaming on the Devil Radio app.
AP News. I'm Ed Donahue. The time crunch is on at the White House and on Capitol Hill as President Biden looks for support for his $3.5 trillion tax and spending plan. Press Secretary Jen Psaki says everybody has to give a little.
I'm not negotiating from here. I could otherwise say this is in, this is out. We're not going to do that from here. We're obviously at a precarious and important time in these discussions.
Mississippi Republican Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith says these are tough times for Democrats.
What we are truly seeing is Democrats in disarray. From the White House to the halls of Congress, it is affecting people in my state in every state in this country.
A key vote tomorrow may be delayed. Republicans refuse to approve routine legislation to keep the government funded past tomorrow's end of the fiscal year and raise the national debt limit to avoid a dangerous default on borrowing. On Capitol Hill, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says part of the problem with the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan was a deal reached last year between the Trump administration and the Taliban.
So the Taliban got stronger. They increased their offensive operations against the Afghan security forces. And the Afghans were losing a lot of people on a weekly basis.
At a House hearing, Republicans blame President Biden for the chaos surrounding the U.S. withdrawal. A judge dismissed an attempt by a group of Denver police officers to block the city's vaccine mandate a day before it's set to take effect. 7 people, including 4 firefighters, were injured in an explosion at an apartment complex in Dallas. 3 firefighters were critically injured. Mexico began flying Haitian migrants back to their homeland, sending 70 people to Port-au-Prince. Thousands more are stuck in a city near the Guatemalan border, waiting to have their asylum or refugee claims processed by Mexican officials. The U.S. is also returning migrants on flights to the Haitian capital. The Dow is higher at the close on Wall Street. This is AP News.
If you owe the IRS back taxes, then get ready to pay up. The IRS has giant private collection agencies actively tracking down folks who owe the IRS. So if you think dodging them was stressful in the past, it's going to get a whole lot tougher. Optima Tax Relief has this advice. Don't wait. Solve your tax problems now before it's too late. Optima Tax Relief works to stop the demand letters, stop the aggressive collection actions, and stop the IRS collectors from targeting you. Ask Optima about the Fresh Start Initiative, one of the biggest breaks the IRS has ever offered. If you qualify, you could save thousands, and nobody knows this program better than they do. Optima is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, and they get results, having resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. Get a fresh start. Call today for your free consultation.
Call 800-467-2766. 800-467-2766. 800-467-2766.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
This is Chad Spate. Are you thinking about improving or expanding your home? At Chad's Design Build, we're committed to making your home comfortable, healthy, attractive, durable, and sustainable. In fact, those commitments spell our name. And we deliver these services with our outstanding team of professionals who will respect you and your home. Visit our website at chadsdesignbuild.com to learn more about how we are building a better world, one remodeled home at a time.
Hey, I'm here from Knuckleheads. Have you seen our new location yet? Come on down to 520 State Street for all your CBD needs. We have a huge selection of gummies, oils, and a variety of other CBD products. We also have a gigantic walk-in humidor. The knowledgeable staff at Knuckleheads will work with you to find exactly what you need. Mention Devil Radio at checkout to get 15% off your next order. Knuckleheads, now at 520 State Street. We'll see you there.
Hey, Joanne, I hear you have a Tech Protect plan from Community PC.
I have been having services since 2013. He provides monthly maintenance for me. He is able to attach to my computer so he can figure out what my problems are. I'm very computer illiterate. If I had to call somebody on the telephone, I would probably not be able to follow through with that.
Community PC. We know what makes seniors happy.
I'm Kirk Bankstad, and I own the Minocqua Brewing Company in Deep Red, northern Wisconsin, and I have a super PAC. We make good trouble by buying billboards, radio ads, and calls to voters in northern Wisconsin. We target federal and state elections, think Ron Johnson and Tom Tiffany, and concentrate on a fair redistricting process. Give a donation now if you're able at the MinocquaBrewingCompany.com super PAC tab. Help us make the politics of the Northwoods as clean as our lakes and streams. That's the MinocquaBrewingCompany.com super PAC tab.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. On Tuesday, while visiting the World Dairy Expo at the Alliant Energy Center in Madison, Governor Tony Evers and Democratic lawmakers announced a $25 million package of legislation that would boost Wisconsin's agriculture industry. The package includes regional mental health services for farmers, grants for students in agriculture education programs in meat processing, and marketing opportunities for products made in Wisconsin. Along with supporting agriculture around the state, the legislation would work to address food insecurities for Wisconsinites by allowing local food banks the means to purchase fresh food from Wisconsin farmers. Forecast of sunny skies with occasional cloud coverage throughout the day with light winds and a high of 82 degrees. Partly cloudy skies expected this evening with an overnight low of 54 degrees. You're listening to Double Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. I want to thank our most recent guest, John Nichols from The Nation. What a fine one indeed. Thank you, John. And Fancy Brian, we were talking a little bit earlier about the NBA players that have not been vaccinated, and it's becoming a smaller and smaller percentage. And the NBA today came out and threatened to not pay them if they miss games. And a lot of them aren't even eligible to play. Like Kyrie Irving is not eligible to play in his own stadium because he hasn't been vaccinated, and that's the mandate in the city and the arena he plays in. And interesting note, guess who supports Kyrie Irving and his vaccine hesitancy?
Donald Trump.
Close.
Someone dumb.
Yes. Ted Cruz.
Oh, good.
Senator Ted Cruz.
Freedom.
You know, Ted Cruz making sure he makes a public spectacle of himself. You know, Ted, can't you just go back to Cancun? Just a very brief reporting here at the Hill. Ted Cruz said that he stands with Brooklyn Nets star Kyrie Irving and other NBA players who have shared their hesitancy about the COVID-19 vaccine. I stand with Kyrie Irving. I stand with Andrew Wiggins. I stand with Bradley Beal. If those three players knew that Ted Cruz stood with them, I think it's far more likely they would go and get vaccinated.
I also think it's far more likely they go and say, who's Ted Cruz? But anyway, these guys are going to be ostracized by their own team. Kyrie kind of already is anyway. But the same people like Ted Cruz are probably the same people that get really upset at LeBron James for taking a couple games off because he needs to go and rest up for the playoffs. You know, because they make the argument, oh, I paid all my ticket. I paid my ticket to go see. And an opposing player, he's coming here. Let's pretend the Bucks were back when they were bad, and LeBron is coming to town. And you only bought the tickets because your son is a huge LeBron James fan, and oh my goodness, how dare he sit out because he's feeling bad. I bet you those same people are like, yay, don't get vaccinated, so you have to sit out the whole season and not get paid.
Ted Cruz did commend the king, LeBron James, real quick. Cruz also applauded Los Angeles Lakers star LeBron James for his comments Tuesday when the superstar shared that he had decided to get vaccinated after researching it, but didn't intend to try and influence others to follow his lead. Now, here's what Cruz tweeted, because, you tweet. I've never said this before. I agree with @KingJames. That's LeBron's Twitter handle. With his box office power, he could have been even more courageous. He could solve the problem. Now listen, for the problem that Cruz thinks that King James could solve by saying, I stand with my fellow NBA players and I won't play in any arena that bans another NBA player because they make a personal healthcare choice. Oh, Ted Cruz. How I admire that man. I met Ted Cruz.
I'm sorry for that.
A couple times.
Did he actually appear to have bones in his body, or was he just a lifeless goo walking around?
Ted Cruz came to Wisconsin during the course of the Republican primaries, March of 2016. And Ted Cruz actually won the state of Wisconsin by double digits. This was a never Trumper state once upon a time, of course, before right-wing talk radio brought them all home and got them to vote for Donald Trump. But I was just maybe 15 miles up the road from here. And here's Ted Cruz at this small business. They invited local press like myself. And I wore a red sweater, very, very handsome in red, and a red Badger hat. And I sat in the front row. I plopped down at the Ted Cruz sort of presser at this small local business. And I started quizzing Ted Cruz. I forget the topic specifically. I believe it was Ted Cruz advocating for Muslim something. Patrols, like you were going to go on patrol and look for Muslims. And I started asking the senator a few questions like, does your local community do this? Is this a mayoral level, a state and federal kind of thing? Because, some of this seems a little bit hinky in regards to the U.S. Constitution, Senator. And probably 3 or 4 questions into his little charade of being in favor of neighborhood audits of how many Muslims live there, and community watches keeping an eye on the Muslims, because to beat Donald Trump, you had to be super duper anti-Muslim. And finally, Ted Cruz and I was sitting, and he was standing, and Ted Cruz came up and put the stop sign right in my face, like 6 inches from my nose, gave me the hand, like, you stop talking, please. And of course, we've told the story a couple times with my little buddy, Dominic, who joined me on a trip to Indiana. And it was also during the primary. And Ted Cruz didn't do so well across a lot of other states. So by the time we got to Indiana, Ted Cruz was a desperate soul. And Ted Cruz was at a diner in Ishawaka, Indiana. And we had stayed in South Bend. And we went to a Bernie Sanders rally on Sunday night. And we were expecting to go to a Donald Trump rally on Monday night. That was actually the first very violent sort of confrontation after a political rally I'd ever seen anywhere in the nation. South Bend, Indiana, post-Trump rally. But during the course of the day, we had to entertain ourselves. So we went to a Ted Cruz at a diner event in Ishawaka. And Ted Cruz invaded the personal space of nearly every diner at the diner. And I mean, Ted Cruz was a desperate soul. He was trying to capture.
He is a human ooze. He's going to fill space.
Well, little kids, I just recall little kids like turning towards their parents, like
that's his family,
seeking protection from this man.
That's his family. Have you seen the video of his family?
His kids do that, right? The daughters did that.
His whole family did that.
But Ted Cruz literally imposed himself on every diner at this diner in Ishawaka. I mean, he was inside, and there could have been more than 50 people, not press, in this diner, like 50 people trying to enjoy their lunches in groups of 2 to 4. So he must have hit 15 tables, one after the other. And what do you eat? And how are the eggs? Can I have a piece of your toast? I mean, it was really it was a lot too much. And then, so anyways, I went outside. I was bored. And I
just feel wrong. I feel gross knowing that happened.
And they put up this backdrop, this Cruz for president backdrop. And, apparently we, the assembled media, were supposed to go to the backdrop and wait the candidate. But my little buddy, Dominic, never being a good complier, well, he was off doing his own thing, drinking some coffee, wearing a press pass, and taking a little video. And Ted Cruz came over near Dom, sort of away from where the more established credentialed media were, and where Dom was hanging out by his lonesome. And Ted Cruz was like fixing his hair, like pushing his bangs over, like trying to fix it, and had someone like holding up a little mini mirror or something of the effect. And then Ted spots Dominic out of the corner of his eye and decides he's going to shake one more hand. Now, Dominic's wearing a press pass. We are so clearly not Indiana voters. And he had to know that, or at least if he used his brain. I mean, this guy's a Harvard educated. Do you know Ted Cruz was a former NCAA debating champ? It must have been a fixed contest, I think.
No, I think he just wore them down because they were like, oh God, I just can't look at this sack of human anymore.
Well, eventually, Ted Cruz stuck his hand out to Dominic, and Dominic's got a camera phone in one hand and a hot cup of coffee in the other hand, and didn't relent, like forced him to make a choice. So Dominic put his coffee down so he could shake Ted Cruz's hand. And of course, he wasn't even an Indiana voter. You know, it's not like Ted went to
I'm going to wear down this hand.
It's not like Cruz went to each and every journalist assembled. There must have been 30 of us. He didn't go and shake everybody's hand. And, you know, Dom doesn't even look like an Indiana guy. He looks like a rock and roll guy that fell off the bus, right? So anyways, Ted Cruz.
Ted Cruz, if you remember the movie Men in Black?
I do.
You know when the dude got like the insect put inside of him and like sugar, water. It was Vince D'Onofrio. Ted Cruz looks like him after the insect left, like the sack of skin that was left over. That's what I assume happened to Ted Cruz. And then there's like another bug that lives inside of him as well.
Well, the only other thing I remember about Ted Cruz from the 2016 electoral cycle, other than the fact that Donald Trump just eviscerated his ass that night at the rally and then eviscerated him at the polling place in Indiana the very next day. Bernie won, but Trump also won. And that was the end, effectively the end of Cruz's candidacy as a wannabe. But then the next time the Cruz family heard from, Heidi Cruz was in the crowd. And let's not forget, at the RNC, Donald Trump spoke every night. Didn't wait for his night, came out every night. And on one particular occasion, if I remember correctly, when after Heidi Cruz, she was in the crowd and she had to be dispatched from the crowd for her own safety. And Ted Cruz is still a Donald Trump sycophant ass kisser.
Well, after saying no to him trying to kiss her, I think that he might just think it's just, you know, payback.
And didn't Raphael Ted Cruz, didn't Trump also accuse his old man of assassinating Kennedy?
Yeah, or being
playing a part thereof?
Being a part of it, yeah.
You know, if someone attacked my old man and then my wife, I would have a hard time kissing their ass.
Well, when you're a lifeless sack of human being and think that, you know, leaving your state to go to Cancun is a good idea and blaming it on your daughter is an even better idea, then yeah, you're the kind of person who says, oh yeah, make fun of my wife. She's a stupid person. And gee, yeah, I hate my dad too. He never really liked me either. Yeah, he probably did kill Kennedy.
Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. Your phone calls could be next. 844-967-2789. You know, I don't always bash Ted Cruz, but when I do, I enjoy it. And I saw another bash-worthy guy, former governor of the state of Wisconsin, Scott Walker. Guess who he's hosting out at the Reagan Ranch this week?
Oh, who?
Kristi Noem, the governor of South Dakota. And the governor of South Dakota has got a new little issue, apparently, sort of a kerfluffle going on. Apparently, she corruptly influenced the licensing of her daughter. I'll tell you about it. And of course, Scott Walker would welcome her. They're equally corrupt. More Devil's Advocates. We'll be right back. You're crazy for us.
If you killed Ted Cruz on the floor of the Senate and the trial was in the Senate, nobody could convict you.
Freedom! Note that Senator Cruz went 2 minutes over. So,
Ted Cruz, go yourself.
Like build a rocket and watch it soar, clean the oceans and make the world a better place. Oh, she can STEM.
Learn more at She Can STEM. A message brought to you by the Ad Council.
600,000 Wisconsin families are receiving checks to help take care of their kids thanks to the expanded child tax credit passed by Joe Biden and congressional Democrats. Ron Johnson voted against these checks for Wisconsin families despite voting for a 2017 tax break that put more money into the pockets of millionaires like himself. It's time to vote Ron Johnson out of office. MoveOn.org political action, paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
I think it's just vapor.
Vaping is safer than smoking.
isn't it?
One vape pod has as much nicotine as one pack of cigarettes. Get your head out of the cloud. Talk to your kid about vaping. Visit talkaboutvaping.org. Brought to you by the American Lung Association and the Ad Council.
Listen to Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m.
Thanks for the job you do. It sure showed in the Supreme Court.
But I just want to thank you guys for your program.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You don't get enough credit for this. We've never had a voice ever in this state. So I think you guys really need to take a bow.
Thanks again for your work. It's really important. You need these guys. They're there for all of us.
You're welcome, everybody, and thank you.
The Devil's Advocates, where there's always time for Scott Walker bashing. Hashtag Walker bashing.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. You know, Fancy Brian, you didn't know us then, but the reason we became this greatest radio show ever, this national product that you hear right now, is because former governor of the great state of Wisconsin, Scott Walker, thought he was going to be a presidential candidate. And where did he go? He went to Des Moines, Iowa. The Citizens United Iowa Freedom Summit. And that was our first foray into presidential politics. You didn't know who else we met that day? Because Scott Walker was a big shot. Scott Walker was leading in the polls. This was early in 2015. And Scott Walker apparently was doing okay in Iowa and other early state polling. And he was the darling of the GOP as a presidential frontrunner. I know it's hard for me to say as well. And then there was this guy that kept threatening he was going to run for president, kept making the threat every 4 years or so, Donald Trump. And Trump came out, and I was there, and the crowd was aflutter with Trump. All these Christian conservatives in Des Moines, well, they were all taken with Trump because Trump was very, very rich and was very proud to tell all of them how proud of him they would be because he's so rich. And this was Trump's introduction to Iowa. And Trump, apparently, somewhere in the deep recesses of that twisted soul, thinks he's going to run for president again. And I'm not clear, but he's pointing at the calendar on October 9th, a rally in Des Moines, Iowa. And of course, Iowa, the first caucus state, the first deciding state in the presidential election. So if you're going to make an announcement, you might want to go to Iowa, even if it's 2021. So Fancy Brand, right now I'm scheming. I think I'm going to be in Des Moines, Iowa. It's an outdoor venue. I wouldn't go to an indoor Trump rally at this stage of the Delta variant, but he's going to be at the Iowa State Fairgrounds in Des Moines, Iowa. Donald Trump rally, October 9th, 7 p.m. Central Time. And I probably would not broadcast it back because, we do rock and roll on the weekend. We unplug from the politics. But I think I'm going to go and see if Donald Trump declares himself the candidate for president of the United States. I think he might.
When I think of Iowa, I definitely think of Donald Trump. Not at all. Like there's no connection in my mind that I make that I'm like, you know what? Donald Trump.
I don't think
Iowa.
I don't think Trump won the Iowa caucuses. I think that was fertile ground for Ted Cruz. I'd have to check my history books. I know that Scott Walker did not win Iowa. Scott Walker, 71 days into the race, after, he ran as a shadow candidate for nearly all of 2015. And in July of 2015, Scotty Wanker, the former governor of the state of Wisconsin, signed the budget one day. I was there at the budget signing. The next day at the very same county, Waukesha County, a very Republican county here in the state of Wisconsin, he called up his Russian mistress, Maria Butina, and he invited her down. You remember her, the redhead, the convicted spy. She was at Scott Walker's campaign launch for president. He greeted her in the mother Russian.
It's really fun to go and look up anybody who's been, connected with the, Russia interference and things like that. Names like Maria Butina. Whenever there's a new name, Igor Fruman, those type of things, it's always fun to Google that name next to Scott Walker and see that, oh yeah, he was being groomed too.
Oh yeah, because he was the front runner in Iowa way back then. But anyways, Scotty Walker only made it as a 71-day presidential candidate. I mean, by the time he got to the Iowa State Fair, Scott Walker was a desperate man. I still remember the stop motion, the video We're watching Walker and he's grabbing signs away from protesters in the crowd and trying to yank them out. Pizza Box Mike, our good buddy, was there that day, taunting Walker. And that was the day I believe he was being interviewed by Casey Hunk by MSNBC. And Walker said, yeah, we should build 2 walls. He was very considerate of the northern wall, you know, because winter is coming.
Yeah. By the way, good luck as an American citizen right now. Good luck getting into Canada. Have a fun time with that. They've put a wall against us from going into their country.
Well, there's no wall between here and Iowa. And, you know, I'm just warning at this point. I'm not committing, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to Iowa on October 9th. And when we launch in Chicago, WCPT 8:20 a.m. on what day? October 11th. That's the Monday. Perhaps I'll bring back some of the finest coverage ever from a Trump rally in Des Moines the day he declares he's running for president again.
Here's what I want. I want a taste of what it's like to be there, because like
come with I can get you.
You go to a big giant Brewers game, right? And like all these people, no matter what, like if I wear a Cubs jersey to a Brewers game, we'll still talk baseball with some people that I don't know. The crowd there, you're milling around. Oh, hey, oh, I bumped into you. Hey, what's going on? Oh, there's a little joke there and stuff like that. And there's a little vibe going on at a Brewers game or any basketball game. What kind of vibe is going on at the super conservative, stick in your rear type of people conservative area? Like, do they party or just stand there going, we can't do anything?
It's a little like a football tailgate party. And the earliest arrivals, they sometimes call themselves the front row Joes. You know, they get in line and they travel around like deadheads. They travel around and they follow the Trump rallies around the nation. And we've met a number of the front row Joes out there around the nation. And, you know, the one thing they have in common is they're white and they're male. And they're there early because they want, you know, good seats. They want to be up front. They want to press up. So, you know, when the former president, now the future president, when we originally started going to Trump rallies, you know, just in case he's blessing people in the crowd, they want to be there for the blessings or whatever. But I can tell you something. I've been to Trump events where they've turned off the water fountains inside arenas. So you cannot drink free water. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they stuffed the sinks in the bathrooms as well. I don't recall checking, but they would sell like paper cups of water for like $4 at a Trump rally.
And then these people are like, you know what? That's great ideas. These are the people that I want running my country, who will go and shut off a water supply so that they can sell more water to me.
I also
great people.
Recall at that particular rally, very crowded, people standing for hours awaiting Trump to come out. People passing out in the crowd from the heat. Should have bought themselves a paper cup of Trump water. Come back. Phone calls are next. 844-967-2789. Going to Des Moines. Des Moines. It's a fun town either way.
You wouldn't hire me to be a neurosurgeon. You wouldn't hire me to run condos. You wouldn't hire me to run HP. You probably wouldn't hire me to run the United States Senate.
Go home and get your f***ing shine box.
Having a great time.
When you're gonna turn on the radio, you gotta listen to Devil Radio 92.7. Hey, Rocker here. I'm back on the patio at Salvatore's Tomato Pies on East Wash. I'm drinking a brand new Rocker vodka cocktail you just have to try. It's called Divide and Conquer. It features Rocker vodka mixed with Concord grape, thyme, St. Elizabeth's allspice dram, and a little lemon lime. Ask for it by name, Divide and Conquer, featuring Rocker vodka at Salvatore's Tomato Pies.
At Crazy Lenny's e-bikes, my store, we have solid e-bikes with 4 power levels, 7 speeds for just $844, or we have the best-selling e-bike designed for Madison bike trails, 5 power settings with throttle or center drive, 35-mile range, complete comfort, spring-loaded seats, soft front adjustable shocks, a $2,000 e-bike, $600 off, just $1,400.
The largest selection in North America, 200 e-bikes on display. I've seen them
at Crazy Lenny's e-bikes.
Coronavirus update. I'm Ed Donahue with an AP News Minute. Stocks finished mixed, the Dow up 90 points. The United Nations estimates there's been a 10% drop in new coronavirus cases.
The WHO finds the number of new cases and deaths worldwide has continued to fall in the past week, with an estimated 3.3 million new infections and about 55,000 deaths. That's a 10% drop in both. In its regular assessment of the pandemic, the UN Health Agency says the biggest drops in new cases were seen in the Middle East, the Western Pacific, and the Americas, with all regions reporting more than a 15% decline in deaths. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
The International Olympic Committee says there will be a 21-day quarantine for non-fully vaccinated athletes, officials, and workers at the 2022 Beijing Olympics. No tickets will be sold to anyone living outside China. No tickets will be sold to anyone living outside China. I'm Ed Donahue.
If you owe the IRS back taxes, then get ready to pay up. The IRS has giant private collection agencies actively tracking down folks who owe the IRS. So if you think dodging them was stressful in the past, it's going to get a whole lot tougher. Optima Tax Relief has this advice. Don't wait. Solve your tax problems now before it's too late. Optima Tax Relief works to stop the demand letters, stop the aggressive collection actions, and stop the IRS collectors from targeting you. Ask Optima about the Fresh Start Initiative, one of the biggest breaks the IRS has ever offered. If you qualify, you could save thousands, and nobody knows this program better than they do. Optima is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, and they get results, having resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. Get a fresh start. Call today for your free consultation.
Call 800-467-2766. 800-467-2766. 800-467-2766.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. On Tuesday, the Republican-led state legislature passed a non-binding resolution in an attempt to codify maps drawn by Republican lawmakers behind closed doors in 2011. The resolution passed on party lines, stating the maps drawn with the 2020 census data should make as few changes to the 2011 maps as possible. That stance is drastically different from the position Republicans took in 2011 when they moved almost 2.5 million voters when they only needed to change assembly district lines for about 320,000 voters to balance the 2002 maps. Yesterday, the Wisconsin State Senate passed an anti-abortion proposal that would criminally penalize healthcare workers in Wisconsin in rare cases referred to as born alive if life-saving measures are not taken. The legislation was proposed and passed by the Republican-led legislature last session, but vetoed by Governor Tony Evers. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but they are kind of a big deal.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. The audience makes this a big deal, Fancy Brian, and we love when you participate in this big show. Join us. Dial us. 844-967-2789. Texts are also accepted at that line, but Fancy Brian reads them. I don't read the text.
Sometimes they're awesome, and sometimes they're just
George.
Blah, bitty, blue, blah, blah, blah.
George has wrecked the text line for me. I don't know why I pay so George can troll us throughout the entirety of the show on the text line.
I just don't know what the
Get a
point
life,
is.
George.
He does not. He goes to every single show and says stuff that's sometimes I've tried to talk to him in a sane version. Now I just mess with him, and that's really my side quest every now and then.
That's your side hustle?
Yeah, it's
trolling George back on.
It's more like keeping myself sharp, just to see if I can keep him on his toes, really, because he doesn't spin with the thing. He just changes subject and moves on.
844-967-2789. Call us unless you're George. Joe from Stevens Point, welcome. What do you got for us?
As you guys were laying that out, I just pictured like the de-evolution chart and George being at the end of it, politically speaking.
He claims he's a libertarian.
That's even worse. Like, I can't even tell. You know where the problem with libertarians is because at the end of the day, who adjudicates law? And those guys can never tell you. Is it like God's law people that'll get? That's what we're witnessing with the Trump crowd right now. Is you don't know. It's really a devolved de-evolution scenario. And that is why it freaks me out if we spend too much time as a Democratic family here focusing on those lunatics. It's like my family. We can't, if we talk about policy, we could get somewhere. But right now, it is like we're really in a scary, weird position. And a lot of scholars are talking about like just the real cracking features of, we saw them scale walls. You know where I'm going with that. We don't want to build that, guys, by the de-evolution process of this politics. And by the way, the system allowed a Donald Trump to be barfed up. It gave Brian Kelly's wife the reason to vote after 20 years of like probably voter apathy. But there, you know, those are all action components. But we as the Democratic Party, like this is the week right now. Will Joe Biden's presidency fail or succeed? And so much is riding on the line right now because A, that's the only vehicle out of this madness that there is. And if we are defined by George and his crowd as like, oh my God, look at Afghanistan, what an embarrassment. Look at Joe Biden, Bidenomics, Bidenflation, Biden bucks. If we are framed as Democrats by that weak vision, and we're not like talking about the opportunity of, look at what COVID-19 and the unserious economic damages that happened because they couldn't figure it out. They still can't figure it out.
I got to tell you, Joe.
Cancer.
Joe, I got to tell you.
I mean,
on those things, on those things that they're the Biden inflation, that type of thing. Those memes were already made before Biden became president. Those were already ready to go. My point is, you can't push these people. They're just going to keep sending more stupid memes. They're going to say blah, blah, blah. That's the issue, is that there's too many of these people that actually support this.
Brian, how do you win in, like, are we going after their vote? Are we going after 75 million people that were like your wife and said, why bother voting? Who do we go after? Do we spend our time trying to go for a lunatic, or people who are just saying, you know what, like 70% of the independents that don't vote don't know what the Democratic Party stands for. Like, dude, the math is clear. We need to go after the people that don't vote. And when we focus on the lunatics, like you poking my Republican family, and I am way outnumbered in my family. You poking them in the eye with the, you know, just always insult the Republican. I get that. I love roasting Republicans. But if we are defined by them, like Joe Biden is being defined when he runs away from his own policy and can't get over to like little the Manchinima vote, like, dude, we're not ready for prime time over here. And we've got a serious systemic problem that drives people away for 20 years before they come back to vote and say, wow, you know what, Donald Trump, I can't believe this rose up. We've got a problem, guys. This is a Democratic problem, but this is why I listen to this radio station. But if we're up like 1 out of 87 radio stations, like, I mean, come on, man. Like,
what do you want me to do about it, Joe? I got the only other radio station, and I'm way back thinking about the libertarian point of view. You know, the only thing I ever think of when you say libertarian is, what is Aleppo? And we met Gary Johnson. Gary Johnson came to the state of Wisconsin, and thank you for your call, Joe. Gary Johnson came here, and I spoke at the Libertarian Convention. So sort of the paid entertainment.
Don was the keynote speaker.
Yes, if I recall, he was the MC, and I was the entertainment, sort of the humor chump. I came out early in the day, and I sort of went on this, what I thought was a humorous riff. You know, the libertarians, they're the 1.5 percenters, because that is the largest percentage of the electorate they'll ever garner for their selfish attitudes.
All the freedom, none of the responsibility.
Well said. Well said. Joe, I completely agree with my pal Joe from Tucson via Stevens Point, but I can't control in the very shortest of run whether or not Joe Biden can accomplish this minor miracle. I feel like he's what did Harvey K use, the football analogy? You know, he's our Aaron Rodgers. He's got 37 seconds left. He's got a long ways to go, you know, and Nancy Pelosi will come home and kick the field goal if necessary. I have every confidence that Nancy Pelosi will deliver her caucus, but I have no confidence in Schumer. I have little or no confidence in Joe Biden's ability to persuade the mansions and the cinemas. And at the end of the day, we will be judged by the outcome of this week. We, the Democrats, we, the future democracy, small d democracy of this country could be in the balance this week. And
no
we have
pressure.
No pressure. And we've got little or no say over the outcome because these negotiations are happening primarily behind closed doors at the White House involving legislative leaders. But we, the people, have no part. And now we've got to trust our Democratic leadership, legislative leadership, to shepherd a debt ceiling raise and a couple infrastructure deals and get them all done and make Joe Biden a successful president. No pressure.
I want to see that conversation. I'm interested to see how it gets done. I want to see, this is more, to me, this is more interesting than the Trump behind the scenes book. That's like fluff entertainment and craziness, but I want to see how the actual negotiation, especially if it's a successful negotiation, how that works out. I want to see what the behind closed doors. I want to see the dark, mean. Okay, do you like your kids? Do you like your legs? I'm Joe Biden, the dark side.
Come on, Joe.
I want to no, but you know what I mean.
He's not going to break any.
Of course, he's not going to. But like you know,
you wish he would.
No, I don't. I use that as a
rhetorically speaking.
No, just as an idea to go and put pressure on. You know what I mean? I'd like to see the. I'm gonna run it like the Clint Eastwood type of Joe Biden.
Make him an offer he can't refuse.
Exactly. I want to see how that works out. I want to see how this goes back and forth. And if he uses that type of pressure, or if he uses more of a kind, hi, how are you? That's very nice. It's very, very good.
What about a non-violent horse head in Joe Manchin's bed later out at the yacht?
That'd be interesting as well. That'd be, why not, man?
Just a rhetorical horse head.
I've seen too many episodes of Scandal for me to go and like keep this in the normal realm. But again, a lot of the stuff on Scandal was based on true stuff. So it's kind of hard to go back and forth.
Did I tell you I'm very excited about the new Sopranos movie coming out this Friday?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I'm going to watch that. And I'm going to recommend Joe take some of the young Tony Soprano tactics and utilizes them in politics.
I could be the other Tony Soprano if they cast it completely differently and had me as him.
Maybe a rhetorical curb stomping. I will never forget the night I watched The Sopranos and Tony put a guy's teeth on the curb and stomped them.
No, I saw that in American History X. And American History X was so good I never have to watch it again.
One of those kind of movies.
Learned my lesson. Thank you.
844-967-2789. Don't want to get so far afield that I don't bring up this very important headline. At least I think it's important. Kristi Noem's alleged nepotism to be probed by the attorney general she hates. This sort of a story of irony coming out of South Dakota. And I would point out Kristi Noem's been hanging out with Scotty Wanker all week out at the Salito Reagan Ranch, where apparently, I think that Walker thinks he's going to evolve into Ronald Reagan if he just hangs out there long enough.
Do you think he just walks into rooms and like smells it? Or like I just want to see how this guy behaves in like this type of situation. I keep asking this. I want to see what the inside of the situation is.
Well, all I would say is, Tonette, you are no Nancy Reagan. But let me read from this article at the Daily Beast. Less than a day after the Associated Press reported that South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem strong-armed the state into giving her daughter a real estate license, the state attorney general she tried to oust is on the case. Now, if you hadn't heard this story, Kristi Noem's got a daughter that wanted to be a real estate appraiser. And I'm married to a real estate appraiser. I get it. It's very complicated licensing. You got to go through a lot of training. You got to pass some tests. You got to get your license. My wife did all those things like 20 years ago. And Kristi Noem's daughter apparently sought to get there in the current sense and was denied her licensing. And so the governor of South Dakota calls the issuing board head to her office and said, how can we solve this problem?
That doesn't look bad at all.
Here is how it's being reported. I have been contacted by concerned citizens and legislators. The Attorney General, Jason Ravensborg, wrote in a Tuesday statement, I am actively reviewing their concerns and I will be following the steps prescribed in codified law in relation to those questions. Very sort of litigious political sort of statement. But let's not forget who the Attorney General of South Dakota is. That's the guy that killed the guy.
Oh yeah, the guy with the who had
thought it was a deer.
I thought it was a deer. It wasn't me. But the guy's the guy's eyeglasses are in your front seat, sir. Oh, it must have been on the deer.
Well, he did try to change the story from it was a deer to the man was suicidal.
Oh, okay. That
A
makes
suicidal
more sense now.
Bambi killed himself purposefully.
Thank God you made up the deer thing to go and cover that part up. That makes me feel really good about you.
But what a strange situation they find themselves in South Dakota. A little more of this story. Democratic state lawmakers have raised concerns that Nome had improperly pressured the head of the state's appraiser program, Sherry Brin, to provide her daughter a license after she was denied one. Brin was then forced out of her job a week later. So not only did she have to come to the governor's mansion, why didn't you give my daughter a license? Then she was forced out of her job. Now, Brin claimed that it was an age discrimination issue and filed a complaint, and she was promptly given a $200,000 settlement. She's already gotten the money. Almost like this could have been planned. Jeez. The governor's spokesman said the incident was a political attack and that Nome was helping cut bureaucratic red tape, though she did not deny the facts of the story. And the attorney general's announcement extends to the contemptuous professional relationship between Nome and Ravensborg. Nome demanded Ravensborg resignation earlier this year after it emerged that he'd killed the man while driving. He first claimed he thought it was a deer before then arguing the man was suicidal. Now, it's either a deer or a man who's trying to kill himself. Death by drive-by. When Ravensborg, who pleaded no contest to 2 misdemeanors and faced no trial, said he wouldn't resign, Nome urged the state legislature to launch an impeachment inquiry. The legislature says it plans to consider one when it returns for a special session in November. So the attorney general, the investigatory person, could be under their own impeachment action. The governor of the great state of South Carolina, obviously, in some way, shape, or form, sought to influence the licensing of her own daughter. The woman was fired and then paid off $200,000. And you know what Kristi Nome's whole take on this has been? Don't attack my family.
Oh, shut up.
I know. Isn't that rich?
You know what? You know what I'm sick of? I'm sick of people who try and play gangster, who do it so ham-handedly. It's just freaking stupid. It's just like I don't even know. Like,
you know whose family Kristi Nome's just fine with attacking? Joe Biden.
Oh, of course.
She went after Hunter Biden, of course.
But you can't come after my family because my family might have not passed a test correctly.
They're good Christians. Leave them alone. Come back with us. We're the devil's advocates. We're on the other side of this ledger. 844-967-2789. Hardly call us in the middle.
Quid pro quo, Mr. Powers. Yes, squid pro row.
I stabbed a man in the...
Hey, Wisconsin, this is Kirk Bankstad, and I own the Minocqua Brewing Company. Usually, I promote my progressive beer on this station, but today I wanted to promote these guys at Devil Radio. Devil Radio is the only progressive talk station in the state, and there are no less than 81 conservative talk stations in Wisconsin that spew crazy Trump cult rhetoric. While the Republicans have big pockets to fund these stations and manipulate Wisconsinites to vote against their own interests, Democrats have to rely on grassroots donations to get their message out. So I'm asking you to donate some money to these guys and keep them on the air. And I'm asking you to do it in September because every dollar you donate this month will be matched by an anonymous donor that cares about making Wisconsin a democracy again and knows that this radio station helps with that mission. So please donate today at devilradio927.com at the Support Devil Radio tab. Again, send some big bucks to devilradio927.com at the Support Devil Radio tab.
600,000 Wisconsin families are receiving checks to help take care of their kids thanks to the expanded child tax credit passed by Joe Biden and congressional Democrats. Ron Johnson voted against these checks for Wisconsin families, despite voting for a 2017 tax break that put more money into the pockets of millionaires like himself. It's time to vote Ron Johnson out of office. MoveOn.org political action, paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
I'm not a big fan of righty-whitey talk radio, but if I'm going to tune in even for an hour a day, I really wish they'd have a live host. You know, they've still got a Rush Limbaugh show. And the guy's been dead for a couple months.
Playing like Best of Dead Rush.
Do you know how weird that is? I make you this promise. After I'm dead, you don't have to keep playing my sound bites. Although I'm hoping you go first.
The Devil's Advocates, weekdays from 2 to 5.
Ass, grass, or cash. Nobody rides for free. Dom and crew are the Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. A lot to report to you, our fair audience. Kristi Noem and Corey Lewandowski. Corey Lewandowski, I took a photo
The groper,
with him.
Corey Lewandowski?
Oh, there's more than just groping accusations. There are some recent new groping accusations against Corey Lewandowski. Here's one troubling headline. Trump's inner circle shaken as donor accuses Corey Lewandowski of unwanted sexual advances and witnesses corroborate her claims. Now that donor and the corroborated claims that Corey Lewandowski got drunk and basically chased a $100,000 donor around, touched her at least 10 times, talked about the size of his penis to her, and overall made a complete and total ass of himself to the point where the woman felt threatened and was crying at an event. So that's the one story. And then
usually good people.
Corey Lewandowski is also featured in this headline that a friend of mine who used to be a journalist, now retired, and I have not verified the veracity of the story, but the source is amgreatness.com. Kristi Noem shows why Republicans can't have nice things. Well, how is that related to Corey Lewandowski? Sources revealed the South Dakota governor and potential 2024 VP candidate is having an extramarital affair with former Trump campaign manager Corey Lewandowski.
What great choices.
Here is what the amgreatness.com reports. Thanks, Bill, for this flag. Multiple sources have informed American Greatness that South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem is having an extramarital affair with advisor Corey Lewandowski, who previously served as campaign manager for Donald Trump. The alleged fling reportedly has continued for months, sources said. Lewandowski accompanied Noem across the country as she stumped for Trump's re-election last year. According to South Dakota Republicans, former Noem chief of staff Joshua Shields left in part because of Lewandowski's butting in. Lewandowski, who is married with 4 children, still has the former president's ear, which he reportedly uses to Noem's advantage. American Greatness contacted Noem's office for comment on Tuesday. Shockingly, no comment was received at time of publication. Noem, a married mother of 3, has been eyed as a possible running mate for Trump's presidential bid in 2024. Bloomberg reported in March that Trump's closest advisors are pushing either for a black or female vice presidential candidate. Senator Tim Scott and Noem have both been named as favorites by members of Trump's inner circle. So this AmericanGreatness.com is claiming that Corey Lewandowski is having an affair with Kristi Noem, despite the fact they're both married to other people. And then the raw story, and this is being widely reported, I found it at the Hill as well, Corey Lewandowski went on something of a groping spree over the weekend. Corey Lewandowski, a longtime top advisor to Donald Trump, is accused of making unwanted sexual advances towards one of the former president's major donors. Never mess with the donor class. Allegedly stalking her and bragging about his penis size during a charity event in Las Vegas on Sunday. Lewandowski, who served on Trump's first campaign as Trump's first campaign manager in 2016, now heads his Make America Great Again Action Super PAC. And the allegations have shaken up the former president's inner circle, according to a report from Politico. Yeah, and what's Kristi Noem think about it?
Okay, so if he was allowed to chase around this $100,000 donor that long, to the point where she was crying and fearing for her safety, what kind of people are you hanging around with that none of your friends around you would go and do anything, or you don't have anybody to look over there and say, hey, could you help me out? How does nobody step in? How do you go and pretend that you're some big old strong chest beating Republican alpha male, and then you see that happening and you just kind of go, well, like who are at these things that they just go, it's fine, it's Corey Lewandowski, he just does that.
Well, the original reporting came from Politico, but Trishelle Odom, the wife of an Idaho construction executive, John Odom, alleges that Lewandowski repeatedly touched her, including on her leg and buttocks, and spoke to her in sexually graphic terms. Odom said that Lewandowski stalked her throughout the evening. 4 people who were firsthand witnesses at the event corroborated Odom's allegations. Politico also spoke with 2 people, one who was at the event and another who was not, who described conversations they had with Odom about the incidents immediately after they happened. In a statement provided to Politico, Trishelle Odom said, he, Lewandowski, repeatedly touched me inappropriately, said vile and disgusting things to me, stalked me, and made me feel violated and fearful. I'm coming forward because he needs to be held accountable. I'm blessed to have a loving husband and family behind me. I want other women to know that you can be her too, and together we can stop terrible things like this from happening. Lewandowski, who has been previously accused of unwanted touching by pro-Trump singer Joy Villa, didn't respond to requests for comment. They never respond, do they? His Las Vegas attorney, David Chestnut, told Politico accusations and rumors appear to be morphing by the minute, and we will not dignify them with further response. Meanwhile, an attorney for the Odom family said in a statement that Lewandowski remarked on the size of his genitalia, described his sexual performance, and showed Odom his hotel room key. The Odom family attorney said Lewandowski touched Odom approximately 10 times, told her she had a nice ass, threw his drink on her, called her stupid, and stated repeatedly that he is a very powerful man who can destroy anyone.
I destroy him at that point.
In her statement, Odom said that along with being concerned about her personal safety, I was also fearful that Corey has the power to destroy and ruin everything my husband and I have been working on in our business, personal, and charitable endeavors. Yeah, if you're in MAGA world, Corey Lewandowski probably has some power over your future. Witnesses said Lewandowski appeared to be intoxicated, and selfies from the event showed him just above Odom's right shoulder with his tongue sticking out of his mouth. Lewandowski allegedly followed Odom to an after-dinner party where she was in tears and pleading for help. He stalked around her at the bar and continued to touch her. Odom feared for her safety in part because her hotel room was right next to Lewandowski's, and she timed her departure on Monday to avoid crossing paths with him. The Odoms reportedly gave $100,000 to the Make America Great Again action PAC that Lewandowski heads, but they are expected to ask for their money back unless Lewandowski is fired. Unless, really? Here is a statement from John Odom, the husband. I love my wife and I want accountability now. We are exploring our legal options at this time to make sure Lewandowski cannot harm anyone else. Corey Lewandowski. I got a photo of him standing
at
outside
a public event, and people are just like, and he was allowed to get near her again afterwards. How does it even?
Reportedly,
dude, I don't care. I like.
What do you think?
Maybe it's because I'm not a part of the donor class and I don't have a bunch to lose, but I'll punch the hell out of that guy.
What do you think Kristi Noem, the alleged and reported mistress, is thinking about this newest reporting that her, pompadour is out molesting other donor class women at a Trump function over the course of the weekend?
Well, her choices are not necessarily the best ones that we've seen. So congratulations. Good for you, Kristi Noem. You make the best choices.
Come back with us. You're listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Your salacious phone calls could be next. 844-967-2789. Everybody's welcome, except, of course, for you, George.
They hire usually good people. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
Is your smartphone really a smartphone if it doesn't have the Devil Radio app? No, it isn't. Download the Devil Radio app in the Apple or Google Play Store and listen to the greatest radio station ever whenever you're on the go or stationary or whatever. It doesn't matter. The Devil Radio app is streaming 24/7.
Always Best Care Medicine is now hiring. They're seeking applicants to become home health care providers to service their clients across Dane County. This position involves providing care at their clients' homes and will require a background check. The position pays $13 to $16 per hour, depending on experience, and offers paid time off and eligibility for company 401k. To learn more or apply today, call 608-315-2378.
You're listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus and W224 EG 92.7 FM Madison. Always streaming on the Devil Radio.
AP News. I'm Ed Donahue. President Biden has some negotiating ahead with moderate Senate Democrats, like West Virginia's Joe Manchin.
I'm looking forward to having good negotiations in a good faith manner, okay? So to put a number on that and do this and that and everything, the bottom line is I've been very, very straightforward and open. They know exactly where I am.
Manchin and Arizona's Kirsten Sinema want the president to lower the price on his $3.5 trillion tax and spending plan. A vote is also needed to raise the debt limit to avoid the country going into default. Texas Republican John Cornyn in the Senate says, talk to the Democrats.
This is one of the tools available to us. We believe that they're making bad policy, bad choices for the country, and we don't intend to help them.
And the government faces a shutdown tomorrow if Congress doesn't act. Press Secretary Jen Psaki was asked if President Biden sees himself as a closer.
Let other people label it and give baseball analogies should they choose. Would welcome those. But the president's focus is on, yes, unifying the caucus, resolving disagreements.
Today, it was Republicans in the House who are critical of President Biden and the U.S. exit from Afghanistan.
This wasn't an extraordinary success. It was an extraordinary disaster. It will go down in history as one of the greatest failures of American leadership.
That's Alabama Republican Mike Rogers. U.S. Central Command's General Frank McKenzie says the Afghan collapse can be traced to the Trump administration deal with the Taliban last year.
My position all along has been if you go to zero, if you go to a state where you're not going to be able to maintain their forces on the ground, that a collapse is inevitable. I have to further say I did not see it coming as fast as it did.
A court hearing today in Los Angeles may mean freedom for Britney Spears from the court and from her father. The hearing in L.A. is about the conservatorship that controls Spears' life. A wobbly day for stocks, finishing mixed, the Dow up 90 points. This is AP News.
If you owe the IRS back taxes, then get ready to pay up. The IRS has giant private collection agencies actively tracking down folks who owe the IRS. So if you think dodging them was stressful in the past, it's going to get a whole lot tougher. Optima Tax Relief has this advice. Don't wait. Solve your tax problems now before it's too late. Optima Tax Relief works to stop the demand letters, stop the aggressive collection actions, and stop the IRS collectors from targeting you. Ask Optima about the Fresh Start Initiative, one of the biggest breaks the IRS has ever offered. If you qualify, you could save thousands, and nobody knows this program better than they do. Optima is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, and they get results, having resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. Get a fresh start. Call today for your free consultation.
Call 800-467-2766. 800-467-2766. 800-467-2766.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
I offer this guarantee to those that advertise with Devil Radio. You will not lose money. You will get return on your investment. I'm Mike Crude. I own Devil Radio. I know it's scary to spend money, but you must invest now in telling customers, old and new, that you're open for business. Devil Radio listeners are hugely supportive of our sponsors. Our creative team will help you craft your message until it works. We will keep running your ads until you tell me you're making money. Call Devil Radio today. We will succeed together. You will make money. I guarantee it.
Hey, it's Chris and Brian here from the On the Bus podcast. Be sure to check out new episodes on devilradio927.com.
We interview people like Wisconsin native and lead singer for the record company, Chris Voss.
My moment of getting on a bus, it took me a while to get to that. I was in touring bands all the way through my 20s into my 30s. And when I got off, I'll never forget the bus cresting. We had landed in New York and we saw the bus coming around the corner. And we all just looked at each other. And I was like, I can't believe we're getting on that thing. And
Yeah.
when we got on there, I'm not kidding. I went to the back, and I'm not saying I wept, but a tear definitely did go down my cheek. I'm like, I'm here.
Yep.
I'm like, I am on a bus.
You can join us on the bus. Podcast drop every other Tuesday on devilradio927.com.
No yelling on the bus.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. On Tuesday, the Republican-controlled state Senate confirmed about 40 of Governor Tony Evers' appointees, including several cabinet-level positions that have been waiting to be confirmed since Governor Evers took office more than 2 years ago. While speaking with reporters yesterday, the governor said it was about time the Senate took up confirming the appointees, noting the many that still await confirmation votes, including Sandra Nass, whom Governor Evers tapped to chair the Natural Resources Board in April. The University of Wisconsin-Madison is reporting the largest freshman class in the university's history enrolled for classes this fall, and enrollment across the board is up 16% compared to last year. Forecast of sunny skies with occasional cloud coverage throughout the day, with light winds and a high of 82 degrees. Partly cloudy skies expected this evening with an overnight low of 54 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. We are sliding into the Wednesday 4 o'clock happy hour. And I'm feeling just a little happier because we've had a confirmation of source of sorts. Fancy Brian, someone's responded to us on the text line.
I have to read this.
Is
verbatim.
it Nicki Minaj's cousin in the Virgin Islands?
It's a 414 texter. My sister is a beautician in South Dakota, and she told me the hairdressers there knew Noam was running with Lewandowski after Trump appeared at Mount Rushmore. She went on Air Force One with it.
Do you recall Kristi Noem also had made, I don't think she crafted it home, with the paper mache, but she had a Mount Rushmore made for Trump and had Trump's face put on the model Mount Rushmore.
What a bunch of, if someone did that for me, I'd go, what? This is weird. This is just odd. Like if someone put me on a Mount Rushmore, I wouldn't go, oh, wow, thanks. That's a yay. I'd still go, this is,
yeah, but you're slightly different and
what I have
skosh less narcissistic.
I have character
than
and I
Trump.
don't, desire
Slow
to look
down.
at myself all the time.
Who's accusing you of having character? I've made no such accusation.
No, I am. I'm fine.
Let's turn our
I've
attention.
built a lot of character over the years.
With a face like that, I imagine you have.
You have no idea.
844-967-2789. We'll get to the phones in a minute, and we'll turn from, let's say, page 6 from our TMZ coverage of the alleged indiscretions of Corey Lewandowski and Kristi Noem. And let's not forget that Kristi Noem's hanging out with Scott Walker this week. And Scott Walker's probably having bad thoughts. I mean,
let's not forget that
years married to Tonette Walker's not doing it, I would guess.
Let's not forget the real corruption was her going in and trying to getting the person who wouldn't give her daughter an appraisal freaking license, getting him fired rather than saying to your daughter, hey,
fired and paid off $200,000 in a very short period of time.
Rather than saying, hey, daughter, go get more knowledge and take the test better next time. You go and say, no, you don't come after my family by telling her that she didn't pass the test that she's supposed to take to get in there.
Well, it does, in defense of Kristi Noem, and I hate taking the role of the devil's advocate here, but in defense of Kristi Noem, it would be a little bit galling to have this accusation, this conflict, this nepotism accusation made against you to be investigated by the murderous Attorney General of the state of South Dakota.
On both ends, they're both just, what are you doing, all of you? But thank God I have to go and check on my friend. I do have a friend, a family friend of ours that lives in South Dakota. I have to see if he's okay, because they do things there that just, what?
Well,
wait a second. This is Wisconsin? All right, yeah. It's pretty much, it's just fine.
Governor Noem has the strong, broad shoulders of Scott Walker to cry on.
Oh, great. I'm sure he's comforting. Come here. You'll feel better in time.
Did I mention, I don't know if you've seen this, but Wisconsin Republicans have made it national, made the big time once again. Your buddy and mine, Shay Sortwell, the Christmas caroler, that guy.
Oh, the one that gets all, when questioned, hey, what have you been doing for your constituents besides getting a tree, gets all amped up and
huffy
and so full of adrenaline that he can't even say anything, so he repeats the same thing over and over again. That real awesome Shade Sortwell,
that guy,
awesome. The guy that Andre Jacques' buddy, who was so friends with him and then kept on pushing anti-mask, anti-vax stuff, and probably was one of the people that helped expose him to COVID-19. After that, the guy who's trying to make a name for himself off of his buddy's COVID being that guy.
The guy trying to get Facebook famous, Shay Sortwell.
Awesome. Good for him.
Well, he's got a new partner in crime now. Let me read some of the fine reporting. Molly Beck at the Journal Sentinel. Republican lawmakers are proposing to eliminate elections for state superintendent, state treasurer, and secretary of state, instead allowing the governor to appoint these positions. Now, what do these three roles have in common? Jill Underly, well, she was a Democratic candidate. And state treasurer, well, that's currently held by Sarah Godlewski. Oh, yeah, she's a state Democratic candidate. And Doug LaFollette, the secretary of state, oh, yeah, he's also a Democrat. So Democrats hold these statewide offices, all three of which aren't going to be eliminated per se. It's just not going to be left to the voters. What do the voters know?
Well,
they elected 3 Democrats last time.
And just so you know, if you want to know what the will of the voters was, Sarah Godlewski ran against somebody who was planning to eliminate the position. So the voters, in a way, had a referendum on the whole thing and said, no, thanks. Let's overwhelmingly vote in Sarah Godlewski because we want to keep this position here. The will of the voters is spoken.
Well, before Godlewski got elected, there was a referendum put forth to eliminate the treasurer's office. That's covered in Molly Beck's fine reporting here. Let me read. The proposal from Senator Roger Roth of Appleton, Republican, and Shay Sortwell, your buddy from Two Rivers, would amend the state constitution to turn the offices currently held by Democrats into cabinet positions for the governor. Then, of course, the Republican-run legislature would then not confirm.
Yeah, I was going to say, because we still have several people that he's appointed that still have not been confirmed or even given any sort of hearing whatsoever.
Well, they finally confirmed like a third of Tony's appointments, so like a third of them.
One of them already moved on to the Biden administration without even being confirmed. Congratulations.
Well, they tried to fire her. You're talking about Andrea Palm.
Yeah.
An effort to eliminate the treasurer's office failed 3 years ago with 62% of voters rejecting the idea. Shay Sortwell, Fancy Brian's buddy, said in an interview he believes this proposal would have a better chance of success because it does not eliminate the positions. It allows the governor to add duties to the office of treasurer and secretary of state, which have very few. Yeah, kind of like you, Shay Sortwell. It says, yeah, those positions are legitimate, but those positions should have more responsibility and should be under the governor and part of their cabinet. The buck stops with the governor, he said. We're not eliminating anything. We're putting them under the governor so we can give them more responsibility and more accountability. Thank God for good governance, Republicans. A little bit more here. If successful, the move would put the state Senate in charge of confirming the governor's appointments to these positions. Since Evers was elected in 2018, the Republican-controlled state Senate has used the confirmation process to create political leverage by not confirming cabinet positions, and in one case, voting to reject Evers' agricultural secretary, Brad Pfaff. The Department of Public Instruction state superintendent, who oversees Wisconsin's private schools and 421 public school districts, would become a cabinet position under the proposal instead of chosen by the voters during spring elections. Pardon me. The position is responsible for managing the state's largest single budget item, which is aid to the local school districts and other spending on K-12 education. State Superintendent Jill Underly oversees a $16.3 billion 2-year budget and about 640 employees at DPI. The position of state superintendent is elected in 13 states, including Wisconsin, and the Department of Public Instruction spokeswoman, Abigail Schwartz, said there is no reason to keep voters out of the process of picking the state's education leader. Dr. Underly was elected by citizens across the state to administer public education as dictated by the Wisconsin Constitution. Oh yeah, Shortwell, it's in the Constitution. The DPI is, which gives the Department of Public Instruction the authority and space to be independent. That has served Wisconsin well for nearly 2 centuries. An independent agency with leadership elected through a nonpartisan election is how we best serve Wisconsin's children, and there is no reason that needs to change. Democratic Governor Tony Evers, who was elected state superintendent 3 times between 2009 and 2017, did not respond to a request for comment. Well, that's because Tony's out golfing with our pal Robert Pilot. Saw some pictures of them on the course together this morning. Still don't have a report back whether or not Tony's a big hitter.
You haven't been calling him every 20 minutes?
I'll check in later. I suspect they're finishing up the round. To change the Constitution, the legislature would have to approve the idea in 2 consecutive legislative sessions. Voters would then decide in a statewide referendum whether to adopt the provision. Evers is not involved in its passage. Aides to Assembly Speaker Robin Voss and Senate Majority Leader Devin LeMahieu did not answer whether they support advancing the legislation. Democratic State Senator Chris Larson of Milwaukee, a friend of ours, said in a tweet Wednesday the proposal is definitive proof that the Wisconsin GOP legislators are anti-democracy. Senate Minority Leader Janet Bewley said we should not be diminishing the voice of our voters in response to the proposal. And Roth said the proposal is democratic because it won't be implemented without voters approving it. We're giving a choice to the people, he said. If we do this, it's because the people decide. It's absolutely going along with the democratic process. It's not an attack on that because the people would make this decision. Ross said part of the failure of the 2018 effort to eliminate the treasurer's office was likely a lack of knowledge of the position's official duties. If voters approve the constitutional amendment on or before the 2025 spring election, the final election for state superintendent required by the state constitution would be the one this year when Jill Underly defeated Deb Kerr for the position. I think Republicans think that Rebecca Clayfish is going to be the next governor.
They're pretty darn confident.
And let's not forget, under Scott Walker, we still had a superintendent of public instruction, Tony Evers. So there was an educational check to Walker's policies.
And that was the problem because, you know, if Walker, if they want to win, they want to win 4 statewide seats by winning 1 election. That's what they want to do.
A little bit more here about a prior ruling. The ruling made successful an 8-year effort by Republicans to diminish the power of the state school superintendent who oversees the DPI, a fight that began when Evers oversaw the agency. It's almost like they didn't like Tony. Also, the final election for treasurer would be held in 2022 under the proposal and serve until the 4-year term expires or until the governor's office decides who to appoint, citing the DOR secretary, whichever happens sooner. I don't quite understand all that.
All I know is that I've been seeing Republicans putting forth bills that go directly against what the express will of the voters has said over and over and over again. Several issues.
But let's not forget, they took away the come back with me. We'll talk about Shirley Abrahamson, the former chief that had her office stripped through referendum legislatively. Come back. More devil's advocates.
We've got to protect our phony baloney job, gentlemen. We must do something about this immediately.
I have never been more excited about anything that I have gotten the chance to work on.
This is Pat Slattery of Slattery's Automotive Service in Verona. Established in 1973, I've been servicing and repairing cars in the Madison community for nearly 50 years. You can trust me to tell you what your car really needs and fix it right the first time. Give me a call at 608-848-6123 to schedule an appointment today. Slattery's Automotive Service, your trusted choice for local service and repairs for all your automotive needs.
At Chas Design Build, our tagline is building a better world, one remodeled home at a time. Simply stated, we want to be a part of the solution to leave the world better than we found it. That's why we've invested in a 20 kilowatt solar array, which provides over 90% of our electrical demand at our shop, office, and design studio. And that's why we invest in local causes which provide opportunities and which confront structural inequality. At Chad's Design Build, we are proud to partner with you, building a better world, one remodeled home at a time.
At Knuckleheads, our knowledgeable staff knows the ins and outs of CBD. Whether you're a veteran of cannabis like the Double Radio team or a first-time customer, the Knuckleheads team has the information to answer all your CBD questions. Never heard of a tincture? We got you covered. Looking for something to address those achy joints? We got just the thing. Stop into our new location at 520 State Street and mention Double Radio to our knowledgeable staff to get 15% off your order today. Knuckleheads, your one-stop shop for CBD in Madison.
Hey, Rocker here. I'm back on the patio at Salvatore's Tomato Pies on East Wash. I'm drinking a brand new Rocker vodka cocktail you just have to try. It's called Divide and Conquer. It features Rocker vodka mixed with Concord grape, thyme, St. Elizabeth's allspice dram, and a little lemon lime. Ask for it by name, Divide and Conquer, featuring Rocker vodka at Salvatore's Tomato Pies.
It could be. It might be. It is. Devil Radio 92.7.
The Devil's Advocates, because it's always 420 somewhere.
When you wake up, welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Welcome back from the 420 break. Looking all cool and fashionable over there, Fancy.
I got my cheap sunglasses on right now, but just for a moment because I can't see my mouse when I do this.
I wasn't sure if you were wearing those in reference to the ZZ Top or maybe doing, some of a Joe Biden aviator glasses imitation.
Get in the car, fools. We're going progressive.
844 riding with Biden. 844-967-2789. You're riding with the Devil's Advocates. We'll get you home safe. Just keep listening and calling at 844-96-PARTY. Be like our pal Andy from Beaver Dam. Andy, welcome back, man. Take off the rose-colored glasses and tell us what you're thinking.
Yeah. Well, you and Brian are doing pretty good together as a team, I would say. I know they're going to be bringing new blood into the organization or into the.
What are you talking about, man? Brian's getting his own show. Him and Fancy Luke are going to be doing their own show starting on the 11th. What's it called? Distended Opinions?
Yes, Distended Opinions.
Dueling Tangents.
Dueling Tangents.
So look forward to that brand new show, Andy.
That would be great. The other thing I wanted to tell you, since you were disappointed that I didn't show up at Herbal Essence the other night, I did go buy Herbal Essence after a doctor's appointment in the 6600 block of University. It was hell getting through Madison, the campus. But then I looked across the street from Noodles, and sure enough, there's Herbal Essence on the right-hand side going downtown.
Close enough, but Herbal Aspect, yes. Did you go in? Did you shop the wares, Andy?
No, I did. I was on a mission. I couldn't stop. I've never tried cannabis, but if I ever do, that'll be my first stop because it seems like it's a pretty deluxe-y setup there.
Yeah, it's nice. It is. It is nice, Andy. And if you're ever going to try cannabis, I'd like to be there for the puffin and the passing. Hope to see you at another party in the future, Andy. 844-967-2789. Wanted to continue updating our fair audience on the legislative efforts to continue gerrymandering the great state of Wisconsin. I think this is the great battle going on. I want to share with you some reporting. Melanie Conklin and Henry Redmond. I found this at the Urban Milwaukee Online Daily. Court battles surrounding redistricting have taken center stage, but on Tuesday, Republican legislative leaders set forth a list of policies they believe should guide the process that takes place every 10 years based on the new census data on population. The resolution, and again, I am quite worried about the fact they're using the resolution process because I think their Republicans are going to try and do an end around on the governor of the state of Wisconsin, pass their maps by joint resolution, and basically saying the governor is not eligible to veto these. But the resolution authored by Senate Majority Leader Devin LeMahieu and Assembly Speaker Robin Vos declares that one of the core concepts, they finally got a core. One of the core concepts in redistricting should be to diverge from the current districts as little as possible. The districts they drew a decade ago that gave them all the power in the world. Doing so could secure their power for another decade by retaining boundaries that are cited as amongst the most gerrymandered in the nation. Republicans, who were in full control of the state government when districts were drawn in 11, secured a 10-year electoral advantage by making significant changes to the district lines, moving millions of Wisconsinites into new districts that were designed to augment their power. Yeah, that's a hell of an augmentation. I'd call it a double D. What's happening is the Senate and Assembly are going on record to formalize gerrymandering, something none of us should be proud of. According to Senator Melissa Agard, a friend of ours, we are debating how to keep those powers in power, as opposed to how we listen and react to the people of our districts. You are going forward with impunity and power, as opposed to with a moral compass. In both the Assembly and the Senate, Democrats forwarded a substitute measure to take up a nonpartisan redistricting bill at its next meeting. Both were voted down by Republicans, because of course they were. Moments later, the resolution from LeMahieu and Vos stating that the currently gerrymandered districts advantaging Republicans be kept as close to their current form as possible passed 1912 in the Senate along the same party lines. The resolution passed the Assembly 60-38, again amongst party lines. Senator Chris Larson said the way Wisconsin maps would be drawn under the GOP resolution was akin to letting whatever football team was up at halftime make up the rules that would be observed for the rest of the game. We could start at the 40-yard line and make the other team start at the 10. We could make our field goals count for 5, theirs for 2. The other team wins because it was rigged. It would be a lousy thing to watch. The amendment from Democrats that was rejected is the nonpartisan redistricting bill authored by State Senator Jeff Smith. He said, Jeff's a Democrat friend of ours, he said that what people really don't like about politics is the extremism and the fact that measures popular with the public don't stand a chance under gerrymandered maps. Oh, Jeff, it's like you'd want Medicaid expansion or high-speed rail or broadband internet all across the state, or hell, even legalize cannabis.
The people are for that. Can't do it.
The people are overwhelmingly for these issues, and the people don't get what they want because of the gerrymandered districts. And even Republican constituents are kind of getting sick of it. Here's what Smith says. We are long overdue for Wisconsin lawmakers to properly reflect the will of the voters. It's about the soul of our state. Gerrymandered maps make life easier for politicians. They silence voters with unaccountable elected officials who cruise to victory. Gerrymandering creates lazy, unaccountable legislators who serve as long as they want. John Erpenbach dared legislators to try and draw districts that are close to reflecting the 50-50 partisan split that makes Wisconsin a purple swing state, in which both Tammy Baldwin and Ron Johnson are elected to bipartisan to the U.S. Senate. He predicted, he being Erpenbach, that there would be a much greater bipartisanship with fewer extremists on both sides if gerrymandering did not create such a safe district environment for legislators that the only election they actually worried about was a primary. Majorities on either side, whether it's Democrats or Republicans, should never be this comfortable with the majority, said Erpenbach. That's my senator. Come back with us. The Devil's Advocates, we're your radio show, but only if you participate. 844-967-2789, the Wednesday 4 o'clock happy hour. It rolls on.
You want to get high, man?
In time, you will know the true power of Devil Radio 92.7. It is your destiny.
You know what I love about Devil Radio listeners? You don't shy away from talking about what's important to you. And when you choose Evolution Financial to manage your wealth, you're gaining a partner who will truly listen. If you're looking for a fee-only, fiduciary, independent financial advisor who's also a certified financial planner professional, contact me, Sue Peck. Do a search for Evolution Financial Madison, and if you fill out my contact form and tell me you heard me on the radio, I'll send you a scheduling link just for Devil Radio listeners.
Evolution Financial is a registered investment advisor with the state of Wisconsin.
Hi, this is Cody with Go Landscaping. We do full yard installs, retaining walls, and certified dry stone masonry. Let us turn your dream for an outdoor living space into a reality. Go Landscaping is still taking on new commercial and residential lawn care for this summer, or let us bid your snow removal for fall. Find us at golandscapings.com. Again, that's golandscapings.com.
Working to avert a shutdown, I'm Jackie Quinn with an AP News Minute. President Biden is hunkering down at the White House, still trying to work a deal to get his social spending package passed by Democrats, while Congress has more votes ahead on preventing a federal shutdown and debt default. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki.
This is why we all came to Washington. It's like an episode of a TV show. I'm not in a position to look in a crystal ball here.
Senior Pentagon officials are back on Capitol Hill, saying the collapse of the Afghan government can be traced to Donald Trump's agreement with the Taliban. Federal health officials say the number of first-dose COVID vaccines is falling in the U.S. That's despite vaccine requirements across the country. Coffee drinkers might find this bitter news. Coffee futures recently doubled due to fickle weather in Brazil and supply chain bottlenecks. Blue chips ended higher, but the Nasdaq dropped 34. I'm Jackie Quinn.
If you owe the IRS back taxes, then get ready to pay up. The IRS has giant private collection agencies actively tracking down folks who owe the IRS. So if you think dodging them was stressful in the past, it's going to get a whole lot tougher. Optima Tax Relief has this advice. Don't wait. Solve your tax problems now before it's too late. Optima Tax Relief works to stop the demand letters, stop the aggressive collection actions, and stop the IRS collectors from targeting you. Ask Optima about the Fresh Start Initiative, one of the biggest breaks the IRS has ever offered. If you qualify, you could save thousands, and nobody knows this program better than they do. Optima is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, and they get results, having resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. Get a fresh start. Call today for your free consultation.
Call 800-467-2766. 800-467-2766. 800-467-2766.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. On Tuesday, the state assembly passed a number of legislative proposals that affect K-12 education in Wisconsin, including limiting public schools from discussing or teaching topics that include systemic racism and implicit bias. Also yesterday, the state Senate passed a proposal already approved by the assembly that would mandate law enforcement agencies to keep personnel files on officers and share them with other departments when officers seek new jobs. The legislation is expected to be signed by Governor Tony Evers when it arrives at his desk. Bell and Health of Green Bay announced this week it is joining other healthcare providers around the state in mandating COVID-19 vaccinations for all employees by November 15th. Generac Power Systems plans to create 700 jobs and invest $53 million in its Wisconsin facilities, the company announced Tuesday from its Pewaukee headquarters. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
The Devil's Advocates. Rock and roll political commentary in a top 40 world.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show, taking your phone calls in this happier 4 o'clock happy hour. 844-967-2789. I'll get to you in just a moment, callers. Let me read to the conclusion of this fine article at the online daily urbanmilwaukee.com. The Milwaukee Journal Sentinel's Patrick Barley reported that Republicans moved nearly 2.4 million voters into new assembly districts. That's out of like 5.8 million Wisconsinites. So 10 years ago, when the Republicans had all the control, they moved 2.4 million people into new districts, just assembly districts. And in the Senate, Although they would have needed to move about 230,000 voters into new districts, they instead moved 1.2 million people. Testimony from Ken Mayer, a political scientist at UW, said the Republicans shifted about 719 times more voters than they would have needed to, especially in the Ozaukee County area. And even before the results of the 2020 census were released and lawsuits seeking to move redistricting to state and federal courts were filed, legislative Republicans sought over the vocal objection of Democrats to move back the deadlines for drawing new maps, which would have kept the current gerrymandered districts in place for the 2022 elections. That would be disastrous. Rep. Mark Spreitzer, a Democrat from Beloit, said Republicans were once again placing their partisan goals over the desires of Wisconsin voters. Here's his quote. Just 3 months ago, we were talking about a different rushed redistricting item. And back then you said, trust us, we're not doing anything nefarious. Well, this resolution is a perfect reminder why we and the people of Wisconsin will not and cannot trust the majority party when it comes to districting. Republicans say they want fewer redistricting changes, he said, but a decade ago, they moved millions of voters into new districts. This resolution reeks of hypocrisy when compared to what Republicans did a decade ago. This latest resolution is just more of the same, trying to cling to power and saying anything you can in order to come up with a justification for doing that. But Robin Vos continued to insist the resolution just lays out a baseline for how the process will move forward. And that because Republicans will pass what they want anyways, Democrats should just accept it. So this according to Robin Vos. So the resolution before us is simple. It basically reiterates what the current law is, what current constitutional theory is, the Republican constitutional theory, and gives a clear guidance to the folks who are going to submit maps over the course of the next month or two as we try to put together a map that will ultimately bring to the legislature a series of options where we will have public hearings. Well, something to look forward to, public hearings. They often don't do that. According to Voss, though, we will let people have their say, just as we do on every bill that comes before the legislature.
Oh, so at midnight after they let their own people that they've hand selected for 5 hours testify ahead of time.
Come on, man. When you're talking about some of the elections committee hearings, like the one Dan O'Donnell was the selected voice of the Republicans propagating the big lie. They didn't allow any Democratic speakers to speak. They often don't, or they bury them late in the evening, as you pointed out. Voss continued telling Democrats, so hopefully you won't just continue to take no way, no how, never route, but just kind of where you've been before and accept the fact that this resolution lays out principles that we're going to utilize to ensure that we have a map that will last during the next 10 years, just like the last one is during the past decade. So Robin Voss predicting more of the same.
How about this? How about we have a fair map and then you run on your ideas? And since your ideas are so good, they should clearly win. Or do you lack the courage of your convictions, you small, petty little man?
Oh, it's the latter.
Oh, that's right.
Fine reporting originally at the Wisconsin Examiner, Melanie Conklin and Henry Redman. I found it at the Urban Milwaukee, going back to the phones, 844-967-2789. Joe from Madison, welcome back. What do you got?
I'm outside, so if it suddenly gets loud from planes and trains and automobiles, I apologize. But I felt compelled to call. This subject is so important, and I'm really glad you're spending the time on it. If you could talk for people who are driving home and they're hearing the words fair maps, the Republicans offer we're going to keep the same thing that we had before. Can you help people understand why keeping what we had from 10 years ago does not result in a fair map? Can you talk to people about that, particularly looking at population growth in Madison and Milwaukee and what that means in terms of creating a fair map? Thanks. I appreciate it, guys.
Appreciate it, Joe. And my only thought when she mentioned planes, trains, and automobiles, those aren't pillows.
How do they know which way we're going?
Thank you for your call, Joe. Here's my thought. Fair maps. What the Republicans established a decade ago are not fair maps. And of course, they'd like to entrench the unfair prospects for another decade. That's what Robin Voss is bragging about there. You know, you don't have the votes. We're going to jam it down your throat. And Tony Evers should just lay back and accept this electoral raping, air quotes. Here's what I would say. Fair maps should reflect the boundaries of existing communities. You know, if you live in the city of Madison, you shouldn't be subdivided any more than is necessary. Or if you live in Waukesha, let's say, part of Waukesha shouldn't be in the Milwaukee district and part of Waukesha in a Republican-controlled exurb district. If you live in Waukesha, you should vote in Waukesha, and the office holders that represent Waukesha should represent the entirety of the community. So that's a basic principle that Republicans seem to ignore. Above and beyond that, we shouldn't have to shape these districts in crazy fashion. You shouldn't be able to take sophisticated software. You shouldn't be able to pick your voters. Effectively, unfair maps are when any politician, let's not exclude the Democrats, because the Democrats might do the same in New York State. But when any political party has the levers of power and they choose to entrench their positions, their electoral positions, by drawing maps that favor their party, their candidacy, and most importantly, their incumbency, well, that's not a reflection of the will of the voters in most cases. Most people want a fair fight. If their guy's not serving them, if their female representative's not serving them, they should be able to elect a different bum. And that doesn't happen much under gerrymandered maps, under unfair maps. Look at the shapes. They're crazy. They're you know, I took geometry class and I wasn't a strong mathematician, but these are not shapes found in the spectrum of the shapes I was taught in geometry.
Like I told you a couple of shows ago, in Chicago, there is a district that is a C. It goes from the north side of Chicago all the way around the loop to the bottom part of Chicago. And that's to get the Latino vote in that certain area, because Chicago is completely neighborhooded. Chicago's Democratic, but it is one of the most segregated cities out there. I mean, not as bad as Milwaukee. Milwaukee was hard redlining until about 50 years ago. But, Chicago has some severely, horribly, stupidly gerrymandered districts, because if you live on the north side and you live on the south side, your politics are different. Your local politics are different, but those districts are still carved so that that's what you got. You got a C that encompasses the north and south side of Chicago, which makes no sense whatsoever.
If you want to see what an unfair district looks like, somebody go Google the district that Jim Jordan serves in
oh my
Ohio.
God.
It is an obnoxious looking map.
But then again, at the same time, people still have to accept in that district that Jim Jordan is a person that they want to have represent them. Like that's the thing that I have to.
But
you have to accept.
You can shape the electorate. I don't think that Jim Jordan is a reflection of the will of very many people, but you can shape the district to the point where if all you do is you take rural voters around Columbus, Ohio, in this case, in the case of Jim Jordan, you draw little lines and you got very sophisticated software. You know who votes in what elections. You go and you pick the voters house by house. So you get a 55% majority that are supportive of a guy like Jim Jordan, despite Jim Jordan's record. Well, guys like Jim Jordan win re-election. And they do so not because of the broad will of the voters. They do so because they pick the voters that will support their incumbency and get them reelected. And here in the state of Wisconsin, we often talk about the legislative maps, on a state level. And certainly they were unfair. But I would continue to remind our fair audience, we've got 8 congressional districts in the state of Wisconsin, and we currently only have 3 Democrats representing the state. And Ron Kine, the congressman from the 3rd congressional district, is retiring. And he barely won re-election. Derek Van Orden, the insurrectionist that used his campaign cash to go to participate in the January 6th insurrection, was his opponent in the last election. Van Orden's going to run again. I hope a guy like Brad Pfaff, who never was confirmed by the state Senate here. That was Tony Evers' ag secretary. He's gone on to be elected. And Jennifer Schilling's old seat in the La Crosse district, well, that's the 3rd CD. And I'm hoping a guy like Brad Pfaff runs, because I cannot imagine us having only 2 Democrats representing the state of Wisconsin when we've got 8 congressional districts. We are more than Madison And Milwaukee, we are more than Gwynn Moore and Mark Pocan. At least that's what I would.
We have to
say.
Go. I had something that went away, and I'm mad about it. I'll be right back.
My pal Kirk Bankstead. We're talking about Tom Tiffany. Actually, it wasn't him. It was Tony Evers' golf buddy, Robert Pilot, who pointed out Tricia Zunker was the candidate that ran against Tom Tiffany, and I think Tom won a special election. But maybe Zunker was in the Fitzgerald race, in the race for Fitzgerald's seat. I forget which one she ran for, but she seemed to be an extremely qualified candidate. And she didn't even stand a chance. I forget. I think it was Toxic Tom that beat her.
I think it's Toxic Tom.
But anyways, I would point out Dave Obey used to serve the Northwoods of the state of Wisconsin for years and years and years. And all they had to do was move a couple of Democratic cities around. And suddenly, you get Tom Tiffany, Brian Style, perhaps Derek Van Orden. You get guys like Grothman. I mean, we've got ridiculously bad representation. Mike Gallagher, Brian Style. I mean, we can do better, Democrats. We have better candidates. And I would say there are some districts where we could have had a fighting chance. Wisconsin's first. When Paul Ryan announced he was retiring in fear of Trump. I mean, do you know how much money went in behind the candidacy of Iron Stash Randy Bryce?
A whole lot.
$8 million?
He had nationwide recognition.
And he got crushed. And I would say, he got crushed because he was the wrong candidate for the job. 844-967-2789. But he raised a lot of money, and the consultants got paid lots and lots of money. And ironically, Brian Style, the Republican candidate in the first CD, spent more money on our former Milwaukee radio station than the Iron Stash did. More money being thorough, and appealing to Democratic centrist listeners and voters than the Democrat did.
And here, let me give you some inside baseball there. I'm the guy who puts the ads up. I'm the guy who gets the ads. I receive them. I put them together. I put them up.
I confirm Brian does all the work here. I do none of the work.
I do the scheduling and everything for all those ads and everything. All right. Not one Democratic candidate came to me with a finished ad. They expected to just walk in and just have us write something for them, and they just say something and come up. Every single Republican candidate had a schedule for me. They had an ad already written, ready to go. They multiple buys and things like that. They bought like professional people. The Democrats, Randy Bryce was a national candidate. He was a nationally recognized Iron Stash. Everybody knows about him. And the inside politics of it was that the people that were running the stuff that were doing his campaign, at least from my point of view, from the back end of it, didn't seem to know what they were doing.
Well, they got paid lots and lots of money. When you spend $1 million on advertising, and not on the radio station I own, but when you spend $1 million on the ad, you get to keep $150,000 of it just for placing the ad, 15% off the top.
Yeah, that's a function I have to put in and calculate as well as part of my job putting it up.
And Randy Bryce, for all the money he raised when he got all done, here's a secret you might not know. When he got done and he lost, he called me for a job. 844-967-2789. Come back with us. Join us on the phones. More Devil's Advocates. Running short on time, but your call could be next.
He says we're going the wrong way. How would he know where we're going?
I think people will do what's right. They don't need a government mandate to do that.
What's the matter, Colonel Sanders? Chicken?
Those aren't.
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
600,000 Wisconsin families are receiving checks to help take care of their kids thanks to the expanded child tax credit passed by Joe Biden and congressional Democrats. Ron Johnson voted against these checks for Wisconsin families, despite voting for a 2017 tax break that put more money into the pockets of millionaires like himself. It's time to vote Ron Johnson out of office. MoveOn.org political action, paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Do you want Wisconsin to suck? I don't. That's why you're listening to me now. I'm Hawk, owner of Hawk's Bar and Grill. Come to Hawks on State and tell them you're there because the devil sent you. Then I can spend more money on ads and help Devil Radio keep Wisconsin from spiraling into post-apocalyptic Republican suckage. I mean, that's Iowa's job. Buy a round of Hawks and save Wisconsin one drink at a time.
Suck down drinks so we don't have to suck.
Okay.
Hey, man, you still driving to Beloit for gummies and carts?
Yeah, man, it's a real drag.
Well, stop wasting gas, man, and ride your bike over to Williamson Street and stop into Quality CBD. They have gummies and carts.
Huh? They have gummies?
And all your favorites like Delta 8, Delta 10, and THCP.
Wow, man, where are they located?
Find Quality CBD at 1222 Williamson Street in Madison. For more information, visit qualitycbd.org. That's qualitycbd.org.
Stream Progressive News and Talk 24/7, as well as download exclusive podcasts and interviews at devilradio927.com. That's devilradio927.com. This is the radio station you were looking for. Devil Radio 92.7. It surrounds us, it penetrates us, it binds the world together.
Help me, Devil Radio. You're my only hope.
Save the $2 on tomorrow's paper. Listen to the Devil's Advocates today.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Your calls could be next. Dial us up, 844-967-2789. Dick from Madison, somewhere in a garage, I bet. Dick, welcome back. What do you got for us?
Oh, you got it. Early in the show, when you were talking about with John Nichols, with Trump, and how toxic you both think he is, and tie these candidates, you know, like an albatross around their neck, just like Foxconn was for Walker. The only thing I don't understand about that logic is, okay, y'all say that, but then you are all worried about Trump coming back in 2024. If this guy so decimates the party with huge losses in 2022, let's say he's right, and we adopt all these candidates, what in the hell would make the Republican Party want to double down on a 6-7-time loser?
I'm not sure, Dick, but they absolutely will. And how do we know? Just look at the example of Rebecca Clayfish. Rebecca could have come out.
Go for it. But what I'm saying is, if next fall they lose miserably across the board, then it's over, in my opinion. And it's truly over. But something Wisco Paul said this morning stuck with me forever, and I've done a flip-flop. I'm sorry to say it. He's saying that we need to take what we can get. And here's the baseball analogy on this thing going on.
You're talking about on the infrastructure deal, the 1.2 trillion or the 3.5 trillion?
Here's my baseball analogy. Tie goes to the runner. If we get the first part through, we're at least got a base runner. And then you go from there.
No.
And I'm sorry. No, listen.
You're going to strand your base runner. Man, you're going to strand your base runner on first, and you're going to end up with 3 outs and a runner standing on first under that scenario, Dick.
And what are you going to get if you get nothing?
You'll get at least your $3.5 trillion. I know that Joe Biden and Sinema were part of the smaller deal, the supposed bipartisan deal. But I've said it all along, Dick, you're not going to get 2 bites at this apple. So you can either compromise all the way down to just the road building 1.2 trillion. I would remind people that's over a decade. So that's about $120 billion a year. That seems like a lot of money to you and I, Dick, but not relative to a $5 trillion federal budget each year. That's chicken scratch. That's not going to change the outcome for America or the American people. So that's my fear.
You and I both know that, but we're both saying that it doesn't look like we're going to get the votes to push both through. So you're going to get nothing?
No, I'm going to get the bigger bill, Dick. I'm going to abandon ship on the bipartisan plan, and I'm just going to go to the big fat reconciliation bill. That's Crudy's choice.
I think you're playing Russian roulette with a half-loaded weapon. I'm scared of this.
Well, I'm not going to trust one of my pitchers to bunt the base runner over, Dick. I'm just not taking that. I'm not going to do it that way, man.
It depends on the personnel, I got to say.
Dick, appreciate your call. Here's a thought. Do you see that Tom Barrett, the future proposed ambassador to Luxembourg, has come out and officially said Milwaukee wants the DNC again in 2024.
Nice.
Milwaukee again bidding to host the DNC. I have a few contentions with this position because let's not forget, a lot of fundraising was done in anticipation of what became a virtual DNC.
A lot of investments by local businesses.
A lot of money and a lot of people staffed up and a lot of businesses did stuff, including ours, and then got bubkiss. And Tom Barrett wants to do it all over again.
Lucy's lining that football right up for us, huh?
Milwaukee is again running to host the Democratic National Convention. Mayor Tom Barrett formally responded to the National Party's invitation Monday, a formal request for proposal process is expected to begin later this year. Here's his quote. "Thank you for the invitation to express our interest in hosting the 2024 Democratic National Convention. Our response is an enthusiastic yes," according to Barrett. Think a little harder, Tom. Milwaukee is familiar with the extensive work and coordination necessary to prepare for a big political convention. We've navigated that complicated path leading up to the 2020 Democratic National Convention. While interrupted by a pandemic, Milwaukee was ready to put on a great event, and we're set to do it again. Well, I would say the example of the Milwaukee Bucks in their championship run, I mean, no doubt that city, Milwaukee, it partied its ass off. And Milwaukee should have gotten a real, and I understand pandemic and all that stuff. Joe Biden could have gotten off an airplane at Mitchell and come up and waved at the crowd. But anyways, let's not be too sour grapes with the prior process. But I'm not sure those big corporate donors are going to be willing to expend their cash when they've been burned once. I would say once bitten, twice shy. And I'm not sure that Milwaukee will hold the same relevance on the electoral calendar that it did back in 2020. Now, obviously, everyone wanted to recapture the lost Hillary Clinton votes. Obama got them in 2012. Hillary Clinton couldn't turn them out, not in the Milwaukee market in 2016. And the end result, we all know, Donald Trump's presidency, the state of Wisconsin turning red for the first time since like 1984. And it was a terrible thing. But I'm not sure that simply expending, hundreds of millions of dollars again to try and get the DNC to give Milwaukee another chance. Maybe I'm just the wrong guy to ask, Fancy Ryan, but I'm feeling sour grapes on the whole process.
Personality I feel around Milwaukee is kind of the one that like, oh, you burned me once. No, screw it. It's never going to happen ever good. You have to have it perfect from the get-go. Because if it's bad once, it's going to be bad forever and nothing ever good will ever happen. Not that I have been around a lot of people in Milwaukee, but it's the kind of the feel I get from that whole situation. Because everyone, you mention anything that didn't work out ever, and they'll, that's just a bunch. Oh man, you mention anything bad about they week one, they were ready to throw Aaron Rodgers completely out because it didn't work out right. The one time. He's been a freaking Hall of Famer magic man forever, and he has a really bad game, admittedly, the week one, and everybody's ready to throw him out because he's got a man bun. Yeah, Milwaukee will be kind of like, whatever, who cares?
I'm not sure that the community of Milwaukee will embrace the concept of making another proposal to the DNC.
Yeah.
I mean, what's it going to get you? A bigger loop for the hop?
Bring that up. They'll go off for bring that up to anyone in Milwaukee. They'll go off for a good 20 minutes on it.
Now, as a radio station owner, I would certainly like to see the DNC in Milwaukee. I'm not going to cheer against it per se, but I'm just having a hard time cheering for it. I'll get on a plane. I'll go to the DNC. Hell, the RNC is talking Vegas. DNC top them. Miami Beach, baby. I'll go back. Thank you to our fine guest today. He was John Nichols from The Nation. Thank you all for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Now stick around. Our pal Earl Ingram's next. The Native Roots Radio. He golfed with Tony Evers today. Our pal Robert Pilot. And then the Up North podcast with Kirk Bankstead and Pat Breitlow. Keep it locked. Devil Radio 92.7.
Good work. Sleep well. I most likely kill you in the morning.
I want to welcome to Milwaukee the 2020 Democratic National Convention.